Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream for our 221,002 Core 2 A Plus study group. Obviously, this is not the actual study group at this point. We are in the pre-show. There's 10 minutes to go. You can see it counting down right there. Probably turn off this video. Hello, chat room. I saw you were there earlier, but I was so busy kind of prepping the room, getting things ready, turning things on, making things happen. I can't even hear myself yet. I just don't even have my headphones in. So, but we're getting there. We are making it happen. Okay, we're almost there. We'll put this over here. We'll put this over here. All right. I've got recordings going. Now I can hear myself. Hi, everybody. I can hear myself talking. Hey, chat room. Mr. Uzi Nelson, it's close, literally just passed your 1002. Congratulations on your new A+ cert. And then Marnix in the chat room passed your Core 1 today. Congratulations. Let's get that in the right place. All right. We're get started at the top of the hour, so we got about 8.5 minutes to go. Hey, chat room. Good to have you here. We'll be doing some Q&A in this first hour. I think I've got it ready to go. And then we've got open phone lines on the hour after that. So we'll do all of that today. It'll be fun. So in the chat room, your Core 1's on the 31st of May. So that's coming up soon. Yeah, this month. And then you got to take that Core 1. Jack, you're taking your 1001 next week and the 1002 the week after. That is aggressive. That is, you must already have a little experience in the industry to be able to make that happen. I see that Lauderdale's here in Maryland and Atlanta. You can do just Core 1 and then Core 2. Oh, yeah. In fact, I highly recommend that you take one at a time. And either one you can do. You can take Core 2 first, then take Core 1. You can, but definitely separating them out for the vast majority of us is the important part. So that's I think the key for all of us. Okay, let's plug in. It's a little warm in here. Let's get the Nest turned down some. The lights are on, so it warms up a bit. Even the LED, it still gets a little bit warm. So, plus I had the door open before this. We had it all working. Okay. Cameras look good. Recording is going here. I can see the Cylons down here. Recording is going up there. I think we're in pretty good shape. Pretty good. I think at this point, it's all Core 2 today. Core 2, Core 2, Core 2. Lots of this. Oh, this is exciting. Do I have it up here? Can you see that number? That is the live number of subscribers to the Professor Messer YouTube channel. And we are at 499,934. So perhaps, maybe, during the duration of this event, we will hit, at least for a moment, 500,000. Because these things do go up and down. They do tend to change, but we're human beings and we love round numbers, and just seeing the round number is all I need. Even if it drops below that afterwards, I'm okay with that. I saw it go up to that point. So that was, yeah, you can only subscribe once. How disappointing. We should have you subscribe multiple times, which doesn't really help, but definitely subscribing would increase that number for the folks that have not. So if you've ever wanted to give back, now's the time. Put that in there. I've got all Q&A. That looks ready to go. I was sort of jumbled around trying to get things going this morning. So that was a challenge. No, don't make any extra accounts. That's annoying anyway to have that done. In fact, I had my phone tell me last night that one of my accounts was one of my email addresses was identified in a breach. And it turns out I'd put the wrong email address in. So someone who had an email address similar to me, I'm that guy, I can't even type my email in correctly. Oh, how are we celebrating when we hit 500,000? I get to say, look, we're at 500,000. And then that was sort of it. I don't really have anything planned other than that. I don't necessarily, the subscriber numbers and the number of videos viewed are important numbers to me. And they help me understand if I'm doing the right thing for you. They're nice to be able to say, yes, we're at that number. I don't tend to sort of rest on the laurels of that. I think it's a good measurement of how things are going, but I don't ever push to do anything. Do you get a play button for 500,000? No, you don't. You can kind of see the 100,000 subscribers right there. There it is. Kind of see it it's kind of in the corner of the screen there. But the 500,000, no, you don't. You only get one at 1 million. So that's how that works. But I got my 100,000 subscriber button when I hit 200,000 subscribers. They were a little bit behind. So, but I'm fine with that. That's good. Happy to do that. Happy to have it. But that was not that long ago. I think the date is on that. So anyway, we've got another 3.5 minutes to go, and we'll get started here for those of you just checking in. Now, if you're watching this on the replay, I mean, you can still watch this. We're happy to have you here in the pre-show. We'll get started technically in 3.5 minutes. Less than now. Something about time and the way it works. It's less than what I said earlier. The next thing we've got today, we've got our first hour of Q&A. I'm going to do that. Don't have that screen go away. And then we've got, what's left after that? The second hour, we've got call-ins. So we'll do that too. Call-in lines, we'll take questions from the chat room. So that'll be anything you'd like to talk about. Well, almost anything you'd like to talk about. Say that. Because really not anything. But pretty close. It doesn't even have to be about IT if you don't want it to be. We can chat about the weather. No one wants that, by the way, but we could. It makes for not a great... I guess I say that wrong because I've watched some streams that were about the weather, and I was happy to watch them. But you don't want to watch me talk about the weather. We'll say that. So what keyboard is this? What is this thing? It's hard to see. There's no light there for you to be able to see what the keyboard is. We'll do this way. Here we go. There's the keyboard. Logitech Ergo, what is it, 860? It's their only Ergo keyboard. See that funky little wave? That's pretty nice. It's got a lot of functionality in the back to change the heights and everything, but it's the Logitech. I'm not generally into wireless or cordless devices because I have a bad habit of not recharging things. But this one, supposedly, the batteries are good for like 6 months. It is better. I like it better than the Microsoft. I haven't technically used that Microsoft Sculpt, the tiny Microsoft one. And I want to say, now I'm thinking about it, does the Microsoft one even have the right arrow keys? The arrow keys and the delete keys and everything over here that's what it's about for me. But this keyboard also has a very nice action. It has a very nice touch to it. I can type much faster on this than the Microsoft Ergonomic Keyboard 4000 is what I had prior to this. And the Microsoft Keyboard 4000, it's very squishy. It's all plasticky, and it just has a very, very foamy, sort of spongy feel. This one does not. This Logitech keyboard is tight. It is very nice. But I have to have the number keys in the T shape. Or inverted T. I have to have the insert home page up, delete in page down in that 2x3. You can't mess around with those. And unfortunately, Logitech did and even Microsoft has done this a few times where they've messed around where everything is, which is not good. You don't want that. Wow, look at the time. After all this keyboard talk, if anyone's left watching after that, we can have a live stream. Where's my keynote? There it is. Okay. And play. and we'll get this thing started. We've hit the top of the hour. Look at that. Now, if I only had a way to start this whole thing. Let's do that, everybody. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the May 2021 Core 2, had to think for a moment, Core 2 A+, Professor Messer Study Group. We did Core 1 2 days ago. It really wasn't that long ago. Today is the Core 2. So if you're studying for your 220-1002, then you are in the right place. We're going to be talking all about the Core 2 exam today. And in this first hour, we are going to talk about everything Q&A related to that. So be ready for some questions. I'm going to ask you questions. You're going to answer questions in this first hour. The way you do that, for those of you watching live, this only works if you're watching live, unfortunately, pop open a new browser window and go to this URL, professormesser.com/QA, and the question will be waiting for you. If everything goes well, there will indeed be a question waiting for you when you get there. So you'll know if you did it right. There's also an app for this. It's called the Socrative Student app. The service we use is called Socrative. So they have their own app for this. It's the Socrative Student app, which is in your favorite Play Store, App Store, wherever you go to get your apps. That's where it is. Don't get the Socrative Teacher app. That's the one for me. You want the Socrative Student app. It will ask you for a room name. The room name is Professor Messer, all one word, ProfessorMesser, all one word, and you'll be able to get to the right place. Now, if that happens, there'll be a question. And if you were here last month, this should be a familiar question. It's a question we had from last month. We call it our rewind question, so we can see if you're able to get in here and work on this and if everything's working the way it should. That question asks, an application has stopped working after a recent update. Which of the following would be the best first step to resolve this issue? Would it be to reinstall Windows, recover from a known good backup, run SFC, run an application repair, or disable all startup services? An application has stopped working after a recent update. Which of the following would be the best first step to resolve this issue? Reinstall Windows, recover from a known good backup, run SFC, run application repair, disable all startup services. If you think you know the answer, you go to professormesser.com/QA, lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. I don't want to have to throw people into the silence pit. That's a bad place to be. So let's not do that. Instead, you want to go online at professormesser.com/QA, lock in your answer, and we will be back to that question in just a moment. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here. We really could not do these study groups without you. I guess that's not technically true. I could do the study group without you, but it would just not really be so good. If I could ask the question and then get no answers. I could do that by myself. It's important that you're here, and we're happy to have you. If you're ever wondering where the rest of the information is, where other things might be on the website, you can, of course, go out and have a look at that. There is a place you can go on YouTube to subscribe. This is always an important one at professormesser.com/YouTube. Don't forget about our daily pop quiz questions on Twitter at professormesser.com/Twitter. And I put the same question on Instagram with a pretty picture. So sometimes that's nice to see too. Go to professormesser.com/Instagram. Now, if you do all of that, since we were talking about this earlier on in the study group, this is my current subscriber number. This is the live number on YouTube. So if you've ever seen people begging and pleading for subscribers, you notice I don't do that a lot. I do ask that you subscribe because it is important to people who create content on YouTube. And if you're watching anybody on YouTube create content, please subscribe to their channel. It's very important when we start talking to our folks, our representatives over on the YouTube side. And it helps quite a bit, more than you might even realize. But I saw this morning and thought, wow, we are not far away from 500,000 subscribers. And we might even be able to do this on this live stream. We certainly have enough people watching right now that if you were to go to professormesser.com/YouTube, you could subscribe to the channel and we might just get over 500,000. I have nothing planned. For those that asked in the chat room earlier, there's no big plans about what to do when we hit 500,000. I get to tell you, hey, we hit 500,000, and then we're sort of there. We're sort of there now, which means if I sort of have to think about it, what a great thing this is. and a remarkable, interesting ride, experiment. Whatever this has become is really interesting. So from everyone on this side of the camera, we could not thank you enough for your ongoing support. And we will just keep making videos until you're just sick of it, which hopefully will be a very, very long time from now. So thank you. Thank you for that. We'll check back in with that number in just a bit. I want to let you know today we're going to be talking about questions that come from the 220-1002. This was an exam released in January of 2019. We expect it will probably be retired July 2022 or later. So we're talking about a year from now for this ever to go away, which means if you're studying right now for the 220-1002, keep studying. You're in the right place. You're studying the right thing. Make sure you have a look at those materials. Do not wait for a new version. Never wait to get certified. Always take the one that's available right now. Always nice to have. The exam is a 90-minute exam. There's a scale from 100 to 900. And you have to score 700, which is a little more than the 220-1001. And if you are taking some of the older exam materials and looking at them, you'll notice that there's almost a quarter of this content is brand new. So never use old materials to make a new series of exams, to take a new series of exams. Not a great idea. You should never do that. We should also talk about what we're going to go through today, which is the 220-1002 covers operating systems, security, software troubleshooting, and operational procedures. So we'll talk about all four of those as we go through this study group today. I will give you questions from all of those areas, and we'll talk all about them. As you know, all of my videos that I make, all these training videos of all the training classes I do are put on YouTube for free. There's no paywall. There's no registration. There's nothing you have to check in or check out for. Everything's just there to watch whenever you'd like to watch it. There are a number of you that said, no, but I want one I can download. I want some audio files from this. I would love to have other training materials. So I took everything that I've ever created and I put it into one success bundle. This is my 220-1002 success bundle that has all of my video downloads, audio MP3 files, my course notes book, my exam hacks ebook, my study grade. It has my, doesn't even have it listed on here. It has my practice exams book is on here. There's more things that I have that I haven't even put on the slide. That's how many things come with this success bundle. Have a look at that. It's on my website, professormesser.com/1002success. And you should be able to see what all is offered there. And it's a great way to support the site, too. At the same time, you're getting some great study materials. We've also got free materials on the site, some free Q&A. I call it my Take 10 Challenge because these are 10-question banks. You can find them for A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. They are archived from these study groups. So pretty good questions because I wrote them. I guess I can say that, right? ProfessorMesser.com/take10 is where you should go to have a look at those. They're always there available for you as well. We've got this event, this live stream that we're doing is immediately available afterwards to watch. You can go to the YouTube channel and it's right there. It takes a couple of minutes after we hit the stop button for it to show up, but it will show up relatively quickly. I also edit a podcast audio only version of this. So if you have a podcast listening program, which you should have, it's always nice to have a podcast listening program for all the other podcasts you listen to as well. You can find that at professormesser.com/podcast, and all of the things that you need to listen to, or all of the other things that are, there's some RSS links there that you could put into your podcast listening program. That's where you would find it, to have those available. About a day later, if you go out to YouTube, you'll notice there's a timestamp listed for everything. That doesn't happen automatically. That's some hard work that's done by my marketing manager, Lori, who is watching this replay so that she can do more timestamps. It just begins to, every time I create new content, she has more work to do. So everybody say hi to Lori. Hi, Lori. Thanks for doing this. She is watching the replay on the chat. She's watching the replay on the video, albeit probably at 2x or 3x speed, just to figure out where all those things go. But what's nice is you can go back years into these videos now, and there's timestamps for everything. So you can really find what you're looking for very, very quickly. It's out on the YouTube video description. It's there about a day later. So Lori's work is amazing to do that. Something new on the website, don't know if you noticed this, but now you can get your voucher for your exam on the Professor Messer website, and a discount is built into the price. So you don't need a discount code. You don't have to go coupon hunting. I hate that. So why isn't it just the same low price for everybody? Well, that's what we have. We have vouchers now on the site, the same low price for everybody. Right now, there's A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. I'm probably going to put the others out there as well that CompTIA offers, just so that you can get a low price on the voucher that ultimately you're going to need anyway. Never pay full price at the CompTIA or the Pearson VUE website. Always get a discounted price. You can go to professormesser.com/vouchers. And if you buy the voucher from my site, I give you my Exam Hacks ebook for free, which is about 14 or 15 little life hacks on how to get through this exam. What is the best way to study for the exam? During the exam, what are some things I can do to get some free points? I don't know about free points, but to maximize the ability or possibility of you getting points, there are some important strategies that are very specific to the CompTIA exam that are strategies that you may not have used in other exams or may not even be available in other exams. And if you don't do well, you will find that you will need to take it again. I've got strategies in this Exam Hacks book that can help you for taking it again. You'll find all of that at professormesser.com/vouchers. So see if that works out for you. I try to make the pricing, I tried to make it at least comparable, if not a little bit lower than the others that I've seen out there. So hopefully you can get a little bit of a price break from that as well. And all of this goes towards helping the site too. So when you're buying a voucher to help yourself earn your certification, you're also helping other people earn their certifications later on right behind you. That's at professormesser.com/vouchers. Let's talk about that question I asked earlier, which was, here's the question. An application has stopped working after a recent update. Which of the following would be the best first step to resolve this issue? Would it be to reinstall Windows, recover from a known good backup, run SFC, run an application repair, or disable all startup services? 73% of you said, I'll run an application repair, thank you very much. 21% of you said, oh, forget all that. We're just going to recover from a known good backup and keep it moving. 5% said run SFC. Nobody said reinstall Windows. Good for you. Nobody said disable all startup services. Good for you. We don't have a startup problem. That's not our issue. The system just isn't working. It's not the system isn't working. Application isn't working. Our operating system works fine. So that's the real question. Repairing an application really is the right answer here. That's what we need to do, because most applications in their setup program give you an option to repair. I mean, you could remove the app, you can modify the app settings, the app configurations, or you could run a repair, and it simply copies over all of the files in case something got corrupted, and then you'd be back up and running. That is your right answer. If you answered run an application repair, option D, then you got that one absolutely right. Would not be recover from a known good backup as your first step. Because recovering from a known good backup is time consuming, regardless of the way you do it. Even if it's an image, it's going to take a lot longer for you to re-image this system than it might be to run an application repair. It's going to take me longer to find the backup media than it will take for me to run an application repair. I can run an application repair in a matter of minutes and we're done, and that might fix it. We can just finish up. So that's why we would not choose that. Nobody said to run SFC because the system file checker is for the operating system files, not application files. So that won't help you. Reinstalling Windows, nobody likes to do that, obviously. And it would, of course, take so long, and it may lose data if you do that, and that's not what we want either. And disabling all startup services, we're not having a problem with startup. We're having a problem with an application. Running the application repair makes perfect sense. So those of you that were here last month, or maybe those of you brand new, got that one absolutely straight on right there. That was the way to do it, and hopefully you were familiar with some of those. Let's now move into another part of Q&A. Now that we know we can get in and answer the questions, we can start accessing the things that we need to access online and be able to work through that. We would like to be able to maybe do a different kind of question, and the next different kind of question we would like to do is really focused on what we call a performance-based question. If you've ever taken a CompTIA exam before, you know that the first handful of questions you get on your exam are not multiple choice. They are questions that are in a different style of question. And the idea of multiple choice is certainly an important one. There are plenty of multiple choice questions on the exam, but CompTIA likes to ask you questions that are a little bit different, that go a little bit beyond the scope of a simple pick A, B, C, D, or E. Instead, they give you a question that is matching. There might be a screen of information and you have to drag and drop or choose information to go into that screen. It could be you're at a Windows prompt and you're asked to do a particular function. There's lots of things this could be. So I have for you, as our first new question of the month, I have an option. I'm looking at the details of this option. Yes, I make sure I have the right question available for you. I have a performance-based question that talks about malware removal. And here is the question. It asks, put these malware removal best practices in order. So this is, what would we do? What order would we have these to be able to have them in the proper order? Which will we do first? Which will we do second? Which will we do third? So here are these best practices. I don't know if this was the one I wanted to do this way, but this is how it got stuck in here. So A, quarantine infected systems. B, schedule scans and run updates. C, educate the end user. D, disable system restore. E, identify malware symptoms. F is remediate. And G is enable system restore. So now put these in the right order. Which one of these would you do first? Which is second? Which is third? This is the malware removal best practice order that comes directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. And if you think they are in the proper order now, you can simply put into your Socrative front end A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you would say, okay, I'm done. That is not the order. That is not the correct order. I don't know if that's really a hint. Of course, it's not the correct order. So tell me what the correct order is. Put it in there. See if you can figure out what goes first, what goes second, what goes third. This is very common, by the way, on exams to have a question like this where it would be very difficult to figure out a way to eliminate what might be wrong with this. There's no way once you put these in an order for you to even tell, did I do it right or not? In fact, you could put them in an order. Some of these might be in the right slot. Some of these might not be in the right slot, which leads us to the question that inevitably shows up on these study groups. Do you get partial credit for some of these? CompTIA has said in a frequently asked questions file that is on their website, maybe. That's pretty much the answer they give, which is some questions we might give you partial credit. Other questions we might not give you partial credit. So there you go. We don't know. You could. I guess the option is there at least. If you could at least have the option to do that, then you'd be in good shape. As I mentioned earlier, make sure that if you are having a look at this and you'd like to lock in your answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. Please don't put answers in the chat room. Please don't put any hints in the chat room and figure out the details of these. Yeah, I think mnemonics might work well with this. Kind of going through the process in your brain. If you've ever had to remove malware before, you may be able to actually put them in the correct order of these things and know what goes first and what goes second and what goes third. Let's see how we've done. I'm going to look here and see how many people have answered. A few people have answered. So let's go through each one of these in the order as they are provided by the Core 2 exam objectives. So let's start with the very first one at the top. Put these malware removal best practices in order. Before you remove malware, you have to identify that there's malware on the system. That's almost a gimme at the beginning. So E, identify malware symptoms, should be the first thing that happens in the malware removal process, because if you don't see any malware symptoms, then why would you remove any malware? I guess that one is relatively straightforward. Now that you are looking at the system and you're saying, that's an odd pop-up, or this is running slower than I would expect, or that's an odd service that's running or executable that seems to be running in Task Manager, now what should you do? You should start disconnecting the network and making sure you're not connected to anything else. You want to quarantine this system. You want to maintain that malware on this system and nowhere else. You don't want it to get out of there. We don't know right just by looking at the screen if this is a worm, if this malware has a way to move itself over to other files, if it's currently in the process of looking at your drives that you've mapped in your operating system. Instead of worrying about that, we simply disconnect from everything and we quarantine that system so that that malware can't get out. We've now got it pinned in. So now what's our next step? After A, quarantine infected systems, we would like to D, disable system restore. This is one that I think a lot of people don't realize, that when you get a malware infection, a lot of people think, well, I'll just roll back to a previous configuration in system restore. That's how I'll do it, which makes perfect sense. And it would be great if that worked, except the malware authors know that you're going to do that, and they infect the files in your system restore points. So you will restore back to a version that is earlier, except they've now added their virus to the earlier version as well. So that doesn't help you. So to make sure that doesn't happen, we disable system restore, which effectively deletes all the restore points. So you've now removed any possibility of somebody accidentally restoring it to their system, because you've gotten rid of the possibility of them restoring it. That makes pretty much easy sense. We delete it by disabling system restore. Next, we would remediate. We would start working at removing the malware. The malware is, I just have a single line here, but this could take a while depending on the malware, or it could be very quick. My go-to is always Malwarebytes. Everybody has their own toolkit of things that they use. My first thing is usually Malwarebytes, and I'll just run it through. I'll get the latest signatures, I'll run it through that, and I will try to remove whatever happens to be there. So that's what I do next, is remove whatever can be removed from that system. And that's the remediation process. After that's done, and we think, okay, we've got a clean machine. Now we've removed the malware, which you really don't know, because I have another one I put at the bottom of this. But let's say we believe we've removed it. Well, let's get some scans scheduled so this doesn't happen again. Maybe turn on an on-demand scanner. Make sure we've downloaded the latest signatures for these scanners. Run some operating system updates to close any potential vulnerabilities that may be in our system. And make sure that the system is as hardened as it can be. So that's our hardening phase, where we would disable scans and run updates. Next thing we would do then, since we disabled system restore earlier, let's turn it back on, because that's a useful tool. And now that our system is clean, we can feel comfortable with re-enabling system restore and getting the system up and running. At that point, the computer is done. We have finished the malware removal process on the computer, on the device, but we have not finished the malware removal process with the person that got the malware. They probably clicked something. They probably hit a link in an email. So we need to have a conversation with them explaining how they might be able to avoid this in the future. So that's another piece. Now, on my personal malware removal process, there is a final process to this, which is delete everything and restore from a known good backup. I don't know how many times you have to hear me say that in the videos, but it's a lot. So, because you never really know if you remove malware. You never really, you think you know. You could be as certain as you possibly could be that you remove the malware, but you never really know. So I think that's why it's really important that we go through this process if you need to recover something from this system, because that's really the only reason you would go through this process, is that it's not booting right, or we've got some files that weren't backed up and they're important data files, and let's copy those data files off and have them. And the only way to do that is to go through this process so we can regain access to our system. But after that, my personal opinion is you should nuke everything and start over with a known good backup. It will save you so much time later. And that's why I always mention that in the videos, is that's really what most enterprises do anyway, is they have an image. If somebody gets infected, they just throw an image on the system, they nuke it from space, and then it's got a clean system and we don't have to worry about that anymore. That should be your malware removal practice. Best practices: E, identify malware symptoms. A, quarantine the infected systems. D, disable system restore. F is remediate. B is schedule scans and run updates. G is enable system restore. And C is educate the end user. This is from the CompTIA exam objectives, the 221002, section 3.3. And my video on this is removing malware. If you need any more information about the malware removal process, you'll probably get a question about malware removal on your exam. So this is one you should absolutely know about. There's lots of questions they have. I know you might get something like this where you have to put them in order. You might get one that talks about, you just finished this part of the process, what's next? You don't have to know that what's step 2, step 3, step 4, but you do have to know what comes first, what comes second, what from where you are right now, what did you just finish and what do you do next? That type of thing. So make sure you're aware of that, you're familiar with that for the exam, and that might help you as well. That is our performance-based question of the month. Hopefully that has given you some insight into the malware removal process. Let's now shift gears back to our multiple choice-based questions, which might help a little bit from my perspective. This multiple choice-based question asks, which of the following would be the best way to manage a group of 100 Windows 10 computers? I should have probably spelled out 100, shouldn't I? But grammar aside, which of the following would be the best way to manage a group of 100 Windows 10 computers? Would it be workgroups, RDP, safe mode, Active Directory, or SSH? Which of the following would be the best way to manage a group of 100 Windows 10 computers? Would it be workgroups, RDP, safe mode, Active Directory, and SSH? Now, if you think you know what the answer is, go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. That might help you as well. Have a look at that question and those answers. See what you think it is. Lock in your answer. A lot of you already locked in your answer. You already know what you would do. Maybe you already manage a group of 100 or more Windows 10 computers, so you already know what you would use to be able to do this. Have a look at them and be able to work through it. Maybe that might help you too if you were ever having to go through all of these options, because all of them are used. You would probably use all of these at some level, maybe most of these at some level, and being able to work through it. We'll see. I manage one Windows 10 computer. I manage, I think, 2 Windows 10 computers in my enterprise. They are important machines, but I still have to manage them to have that there. So let's see how we did with this one. The question asked, which of the following would be the best way to manage a group of 100 Windows 10 computers? Would it be workgroups, RDP, safe mode, Active Directory, or SSH? 72% of you say Active Directory is what you would use. 25% of you said workgroups is the answer. It's the right answer. 2% of you said SSH. 2% of you said RDP. 0% of you said safe mode. So it's effectively a 3-way tie for last, for third place there. So if we go with our 71% of you that said Active Directory, are probably 71% of you that said, yeah, Active Directory is what we use, because we can centrally manage all of these devices from what we call one single pane of glass. So that is the idea behind Active Directory, is where you're managing the process using Active Directory domain services and be able to understand how to configure Active Directory in all of these systems. Because you could set policies in Active Directory and go to one screen and say, everybody's password has to be 8 characters long. You click a button and now suddenly everyone's machine has a policy that says it must be at least 8 characters long. That's how Active Directory works. And everything about the Windows operating system can effectively be managed through Active Directory. This also centralized authentication. So if you're creating someone's account, you're setting up a password, they call you, say, I can't get into my account. I can't log into my system. You go to Active Directory's front end, you click the change password button, you change the password on their account, and no matter what they're using to log in, now they can use this new password to be able to do that. Lots of options there. And if you need to unlock it, this is where you do the unlocking process. And if somebody leaves the company, it's where you disable their account as well. So a lot of management and functionality with accounts and with capabilities on someone's system is all done through Active Directory, instead of going to everybody's machine individually, instead of manually installing everything you would need to install the operating system on every single machine. You know, if you have 2 machines like I do, I can get away with not having Active Directory. But when you have 100 machines, there's no way you want to go to 100 different computers to be able to manage this. And certainly authenticating and managing rights and permissions becomes ridiculous once you get above 3 or 4. So Active Directory centralizes that as well. So the 70% of you that chose Active Directory got that one absolutely right. Now, a quarter of you, just over 26%, said workgroups is what you would use. The challenge here, of course, is first, workgroups is a non-centralized method of authentication, which means on these 100 machines that if you wanted to be able to access resources on all 100 of those machines, every single machine would have to be individually configured with your username and password. And if you change the password on one, it doesn't change the password on the others. So if you needed to change your password, you'd have to go to all 100 machines and change your password on all 100 machines. You can see why workgroups probably not the most flexible method when you're dealing with more than a handful of devices. So workgroups is certainly nice capability for your house, and that's what most people I think would use in their home. But really the key is Active Directory when you get into using enterprise and a large number of devices is indeed Active Directory. Very useful to have that there. Very functional to have that. You notice I did not put home group in the chat room. They're talking about home groups, which was really designed for the home. It was a single password that effectively granted you access to all the systems on your local network. Home groups was questionable from a security perspective. And because of that, it was removed from Windows 10. It no longer exists in Windows 10, so I didn't even put it here as an option. It is in the exam objectives, and you should know about home group, but you won't be able to use it anymore. It was not insecure. It was a single password that granted you access to all these systems, and it's just a little bit less, not the best practice you would want to use with security. The process was secure. The implementation, I guess you could say, was perhaps not secure. I think that's probably the best way to say it. You would never want to give one password and have everybody in your home have access to all the things. Now there are some rights and permissions associated with that, but it was just too much. Even people in the chat room are wondering, what? They did? You could? Yes, you could. They did, and you could. That's why it's not there anymore. No more home group. The right answer here, Active Directory. You guys got that one absolutely right. Let's do another one. Since we're on this Windows kick, seems to be a lot of Windows going on. This is a Windows question that asks, a Windows 10 computer has stopped updating information on the screen and appears to be hung. Which of the following would be the best next troubleshooting step? Would we, there's only 3 here. There are many more answers here than 3. In fact, I wonder if the right answer even made it into this list. What happened to all my answers? Where'd they go? It's now fill in the blank. What would you do? Now I have to go look at it myself. What did we do with all of the answers? While we're doing that, that's why these are live, right? That's what we do. So I'm going to go look at my study group content real quick and see if I have all the right answers here for you. I clearly don't have all the right answers here for you. I wonder if I can update it in real time as we're live. You're going to watch it as I go through all of these things, or maybe I didn't put anything else. Could that be possible, that I was slacking off a little bit and I only have 3 answers in my list of things? Well, we're going to do this with these 3 answers then on the locking up of the system. The question asks, a Windows 10 computer has stopped updating information on the screen and appears to be hung. Which of the following would be the best next troubleshooting step? Would we A, unplug the computer and restart? Would we B, launch Task Manager? Or would we C, ping the computer from another device? I'm going to go with those 3. I don't even know at this point if those 3 are the right ones, but I think there are. I think one of those, this is way too easy. When you get down to 3 multiple choice, probably not the question you're going to get on an exam. You do not have any questions on your exam that are 3 answers. You have to choose from at least 4, and very often more than that. Not very often, but occasionally more than that. This is one where it might be relatively obvious given the small number of options available. Windows 10 computer stopped updating information on the screen, appears to be hung. Which of the following would be the best next troubleshooting step? We're just going to go to the results on this one. We're going to try to get through this one and pretend it never happened. 76% of you said launch Task Manager. And that is, by the way, the right answer. Task Manager you can launch usually when the system is frozen up, when the system is non-responsive, when it is hung. That is the situation. The computer, nothing is updating on the screen. The whole thing is hung. It's just not doing anything on the screen. It's a lockup. Sometimes you can punch the caps lock key or the num lock, and you can see if at least the keyboard is registering, because if you have a light on your keyboard that turns on and off if you click those, that's at least giving you feedback that the keyboard is talking to at least the BIOS of the system. It's at least talking to the computer at some level. So it may not be completely ridiculous with making these things happen. So I think that would be certainly one to figure out. This is also right here a way to terminate the bad apps. This is what you should do, is go to Task Manager, which is the right answer. So at least I put that part on it with the right thing. In Windows, and indeed Linux, Control-Alt-Delete will bring up some options for that, and you'll be able to work through those. And the Task Manager will get you there. Task Manager then might allow you to terminate the application that's causing the lockup. So that might be what you can do from that. Control-Delete, you can also do the shortcut. What is it? Control-Shift-Escape? Is that the one? I think that's a chat room already beat me to it. Yes. Another quick way to get Task Manager. But we only need to know, we don't need to know that for the exam. They don't talk about that particular quick keystroke. But Control-Delete is such an easy one to remember because you can access a number of different things from that perspective. In Mac OS, it's called Force Quit, and it's the Command Option Escape key. Effectively does the same thing. Brings up a little list of tasks, and you can tell it to force quit from the applications that are causing the biggest problem. So for those of you, you had a 1 in 3 chance, people. It does not get better than this. I should probably just done 2. Next month, we'll have a question with 2. No, we won't. But at least now we were able to go through the process of working through a system lockup and trying to figure out what's happening there. Now, obviously, if you do the Control-Delete or you do the Control-Shift-Escape and nothing happens, okay, well then your best next step after that may be just to do a power cycle. It's to hold down that power button, have the system power off, and then power it back on again. You may have no choice. But if we can avoid that, that would be great to not do that. And the great way to avoid that is to launch Task Manager and just stop the application that's causing the problem for everyone else, if that's possible. If you chose B, launch Task Manager, you got it absolutely right. Well done. And you were able to take advantage of my apparent lack of preparation, which sometimes happens, people. It sometimes is going to be that way. That's okay. I've got more questions for you. Let's do another one. Next question on our list is, since those of you in the chat room said we've had way too many Windows questions, okay, how about this question that asks, which of the following would be the best way to automate the Linux OS? And fortunately, there's 4 options available on this one. Which of the following would be the best way to automate the Linux OS? Would that be PowerShell, JavaScript, VBScript, or Shell Script? 4 options there. PowerShell, JavaScript, VBScript, and a Shell Script. Those of you in the chat room that are wondering, did we do it yet? So close, people. This is why, it went down. I love it when it goes down. I like it when it goes the other direction. We are looking at the live subscriber list on the Professor Messer YouTube channel. And we are hoping that those of you watching would pay the price, as they say, as Tim Tracker says. And if you appreciate what the work we do and you appreciate the live stream, subscribing to the YouTube channel and making these numbers go up is a way that we could at least have some type of personal gratification. I don't know. We get to say, yay, we did. We're so close now, like 20 away. Which of the following would be the best way to automate the Linux operating system? Linux OS. Let's see if any those Linux people that were here that were so strongly mentioning how much they did not like Windows. I don't know. That's good. We've got at least a Linux question for you. And of course, on the exam, you need to know Windows. You need to know Linux. You need to know Mac OS. You know, a lot of people always say these exams are vendor neutral. And I think a lot of people believe that means there's nothing vendor in them. That's not the case at all. The vendor neutrality, as it applies to these CompTIA exams, means that there's no specific emphasis on any particular vendor, because there are plenty of Cisco references in here. There are Microsoft references in here. There's Linux references. There's Apple references. There are Android references. There's iOS. So vendor neutral means we'll pull from everybody and pull it in. You're not stuck just learning one of those things. That's the important part of this and having that there. Let's see how you did with this. Which of the following would be the best way to automate the Linux OS? Is it PowerShell, JavaScript, VBScript, or Shell Script? 64% of you said shell script is what you would use. We have kind of a three-way tie for second. 16% said VB script, 13% said PowerShell, 9% said JavaScript. So very useful to know the options available in Linux. This is one of the many ways to automate the Linux operating system, is using something like a shell script. This is commonly used. I got plenty of shell scripts running on my Linux machines, doing backups, doing database moves, doing log file cleanups. There's all kinds of shell scripts that fire off automatically to hopefully keep my website running. In fact, this previous week, I have a shell script that updates applications to make sure that everything is updated, except it updated my firewall. And I forgot the last time I changed my firewall to save my settings. It reset my firewall and turned off my website. So that's not what you want to do. You want to have your shell script doing the right thing in Linux. That would be useful. See, we get it wrong all the time. Even the pros mess it up all the time. So everybody's human. We have one of those things happen a lot. So this is really the challenge, is finding the best way to automate your systems, and a shell script is a great way to do it in Linux. This is really a challenge. By the way, that's not the first time I've completely broken a system, and it will not be the last time I completely break a system. I've got some doozies that I've done in my career where many people and many monies were lost because of dumb things that I did. But we all do that, and eventually we figure out, don't do that again. That stove was hot. Maybe we shouldn't touch that stove again. So that's an important part of this. Shell scripts. There's different kinds of shell scripts. There's the C shell. There's the bash shell. There is the shell. There's lots of different kinds of Linux shells. And you could probably end up doing a lot of different kinds. There's probably a default one that comes with your build. That's usually the one that a lot of people use. The one I have here is the bash shell that's running for this particular script. They're all almost identical. There's not very many differences between the shells, but the differences sometimes make the difference. The Born and Born Again are great shells as well. In Mac OS, they have do they do Z shell? Which shell are they using in Mac OS these days? They shifted it. They used to run one, now they're running a different one. But that's what you would use to automate. It's a great way to automate in Linux and Mac OS. And in Windows, the best, or at least comparable flavor of that is the batch file. That's what you would use on Windows, or even better, if you were on Windows, you would use PowerShell. That's really the best shell for you administrators. But I've got a lot of batch files I run in Windows too. So usually where you would go with for those. You would not use JavaScript to automate Linux. JavaScript is a scripting language that works inside of your browser. So as you're automating things on the Windows on your browser screen, when you connect to ProfessorMesser.com, there's plenty of little JavaScripts that run to make the experience something that you would enjoy. And then VBScript, Visual Basic Scripting Language, is one that's commonly used by the Windows operating system and applications that run in the Windows operating system. Certainly not a Linux operating system. You would not run VBScript on Linux. You would instead use what the 64% of you chose, answer D, shell script. Makes sense to me to have those there. Well, as you can see, we go through a lot of questions here. We got even more to come, so stick around for more questions. But one of the things that always drives me crazy when I'm trying to study for these is I never know when I'm ready to go take the exam. I go through the objectives. I think I have an understanding of what the book is telling me. I watch some videos, but then I'm wondering, am I really ready? And one of the best things you can do to test yourself is to test yourself with some practice exams. And the problem with some of the practice exams I've seen online, though, not real good. Some of them are not good at all. I get a lot of emails from people saying, I found this question on a website and this makes no sense. And unfortunately, I have to send that back and say, go ask the people on that website, because I get so many of these emails that people send me saying, this very oddly written question I found on this third-party site that doesn't make sense to me. Well, it probably doesn't make sense because they didn't write a very good question for you. So I thought, why don't I write some good questions for you? 380 pages, 3 practice exams, all available on my own practice exams book that I wrote to have the same feel as an actual exam. So not only is the topics specific to the Core 2 exam, but the way the questions are written have been specifically written in the same style, the same voice, the same iambic pentameter as the CompTIA exams. They have the same flow, if you will, or I tried to at least make it the same flow. So here is directly from the book. I've got the book up right now. Let's do one of these. A system administrator is installing a new server into the metal racks in a data center. During the installation process, the administrator can feel a faint tingling sensation when mounting the server. Which of the following safety systems should be tested and verified first? Would it be equipment grounding, lighted exit signs, cable management, or waste disposal regulations? All 4 things you should know about on the exam. Now you can click a button and go right to the answer key, but I'm going to click this other one. Notice these are live links in the PDF itself. You can also get, by the way, actual physical printed books of these. So if you wanted to look at it in the book, you could just flip to page 41 and the answer would be there on page 41. But since we're on the PDF, I can simply click. It takes me to page 41. It gives me the question and answers again and tells me the answer is A, equipment grounding. And it explains why this is the right answer, which is also an important part of this, obviously. If you get these questions right or wrong, you need to know that answer A, equipment grounding, is correct and why it is correct. Now, the problem is that when I do these exams, I never get it right. I always get it wrong. But a lot of the things I see online don't tell you why you got it wrong. So when I wrote this book, every single question tells you why you got it right, and every single question goes through every single incorrect answer and tells you why every incorrect answer is the wrong one. In this, I have to give you an extra tip that if you have my practice exams book and you get these questions right, don't forget to read about the incorrect answers, because the information in there can also help you if the topics from the incorrect answers come up on your exam. So it's almost like having some additional study questions there that just happen to be wrong. Also, at the bottom of this, there's a QR code. So if you're wondering, where'd that question come from and how can I learn more about this topic? Well, you can just point your camera. In fact, you can do that right now. Point your camera at the screen. It will find the QR code and take you to the safety procedures option, or you can simply click on the link that I have in the book and it will take you over to that particular page as well. So there it is. Well, it's the wrong one on that one. I clicked the wrong button. I had it going so well, and then I clicked the wrong button on my screen. But that will get you to safety procedures. So you can see what I'm looking at for questions, for answers. It's all in my practice exams book. There it is. So have a look at that. It's on my website. You can't even see the link because I have it right here, professormesser.com/core2pe. This is probably one of the things that take the longest in creating, but boy, it has so much value, just ongoing value, to be able to read through these questions and know what's there. Hopefully that can help you with your exam too and working through those things. professormesser.com/core2pe. And those are available for both for the Core 1 and the Core 2. Let's do another question. We got time for a couple more. Let's fit a couple more in here. Which macOS tool would be the best choice for automated backups? We're doing a lot of operating system stuff today, aren't we? Which macOS tool would be the best choice for automated backups? Would it be Keychain, Time Machine, Mission Control, Spotlight, or Boot Camp? Which macOS tool would be the best choice for automated backups? Is it Keychain, Time Machine, Mission Control, Spotlight, or Boot Camp? If you think you know the answer, please do not put the answer in the chat room. Go to professormesser.com/QA. Use that link on your screen and answer the question straight away. These exams can be done in the UK, right? Well, it's a book. It's a PDF. So, yes, anything that can read a PDF can take those exams. Now, my PDF that I have on my screen, I can even edit in my PDF reader. Do I have this? Let's go through. There's my PDF. So if I wanted to go back, in fact, I have a back button that would take me to the next question, and I can go to the next question. So on this one, if I think I knew what it was, I think it's cable management. You can go to the top of this and go to your annotation, and you can mark it. Some people like to mark it in a separate page or separate window. Some people like to mark it in the book itself. So you can do that too. That might be a way to do it. So if you have a tablet or you have a PDF reader, that might help you as well. So there's our question. Which macOS tool would be the best choice for automated backups? Is it Keychain, Time Machine, Mission Control, Spotlight, or Boot Camp? This is what, if you don't know macOS, then this one might be more difficult than it seems to be. Mac OS, obviously a big part of the exam, and some of the features and capabilities in Mac OS are something you should know for the exam. Which Mac OS tool would be the best choice for automated backups? How did you answer? Let's see your results. 87% of you say it's Time Machine. Well, I hope it is, because that would be embarrassing. 8% said you would use Keychain. 3% said Mission Control. 1% said Spotlight. And then 1% said Boot Camp. So the real question, I guess, if you're ever trying to figure out what these might be, go have a look at Mac OS. A lot of functionality there. Time Machine is the backup feature that is built into Mac OS. So you just connect up an external drive or a separate drive, or in my particular case, it does the Time Machine backup to my NAS. So as long as the NAS is up and running, every hour this kicks off, it figures out what's changed, it copies that over into the backup, and then I can go back in time to any date and time and get different versions of files, get exactly the file from that particular day. Very nice user interface that just is integrated into the operating system to be able to do that. And very quick to be able to use it. There's been many times where I've accidentally deleted a file, especially one of these documents I've been working on. And I thought, oh, I should not have done that. And I already threw it out of my recycle bin, already emptied the recycle bin because I needed the space. And I just, those times when you get low on space, you just start deleting. Don't need that, don't need that. Then only after you've deleted everything and completely erased your recycle bin, you realize, oh, wait, I did need that. That's when I go to Time Machine. So I click my Time Machine button and I go in there. And indeed, it just constantly runs without any user intervention on the machine. In fact, right now on my machine, which you can't see, but we're on my Mac OS here. Can you even see it? Probably not. The Time Machine is running in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. You don't even see it on the screen. I'll have to bring it up as a separate utility window that I have. But it is part of the system preferences. Here we go. So all of the capabilities are here in the Time Machine option right here. So there it is, my Time Machine. I've only got 622 gig available on that machine. The oldest backup goes back to June of 2020. So I've got plenty of drive space I've got there. I probably don't even need that much, but it's there. If I ever need to back up this machine and get it running, Time Machine is what I would use for that. If you are watching this video for continuing education unit credit, then you can do these steps, and I will send you an email that confirms that you were here. So you can use that if you're ever audited. Most people are not, but it's kind of nice to have at least a digitally signed email from me that shows that you were here. The way you would do this is you go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, and there's a Contact Us link at the top and the bottom. On that Contact Us link, it brings up a form. Put in your name, your email address. Email is probably the most important of those, obviously, because I'm emailing this back to you. In the subject line, if you'd be nice enough to put that this is the May 2020 Core 2 study group, and in a line by itself, in the body of the message, put the super secret code word of the month, Time Machine. Time Machine is the super secret code word of the month. If you'd also like to put anything else in that message, you're more than welcome to. I read through every single one of those. I'm not able to respond back to every single one because I get hundreds of these in a month, but I do read through every single one of them, and I like some of the things you put in there. Sometimes I don't think there's ever been a time where I didn't like what you put in there, but at least you've got the option there, the super secret code word of the month, Time Machine, super secret code word. And just so you see, we did it, everybody. 500,000 subscribers. Hold on. 500,000. Take a moment. That actually is quite nice. That actually is fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, through the many, many years that we have been doing this on YouTube. I think I went back and I just saw them coming up on my next YouTube anniversary, which goes back, I don't know, 10, 11 years at this point. So it's been a ridiculously crazy road. It has been an amazing experience to get to 500,000 subscribers, and could not do it without your help. Thank you so much for what you do. You are the motivation that keeps all of this going. It's kind of hard sometimes to be sitting in the dark room and typing away and wondering, is this really doing something? Is this really providing any value? And you're so good at constantly giving me that feedback and going, no, This is definitely what you should be doing. Can we see my first YouTube video? Let's try that in the after show. I'd like to see if we can find it. That should be interesting. But thank you so much. This is great. I'm going to tell Mrs. Professor Messer when we're done. Lori, congratulations. She's watching the replay. So this is a pretty awesome thing, and could not have done it without you. We'll talk more about that in the after show. Let's do another question because we have some time left. I know we're getting tight on time, so let's get another question in with our question and answers. This next question asks, a Windows administrator would like to encrypt a single file on an NTFS volume. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be BitLocker, Active Directory, SFC, EFS, or check disk? A Windows administrator would like to encrypt a single file on an NTFS volume. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be BitLocker, Active Directory, SFC, EFS, check disk? It's got to be one, right? If you think you know the answer, please don't answer in the chat room. Go to professormesser.com/QA. Lock in your answer. This is the one where we want to figure it out. This is something you may end up wanting to do on your system. You should understand the advantages and disadvantages of doing that, but certainly something you should know how to do because it is listed in the exam objectives. That's the most important reason you would need to know this. There have been times, I think, on the A+, going back over the number of years we've been doing this, where I've had to kind of look at the exam objectives and ask, why are they asking us that? Why do we need to know that? And I think that was a fair criticism in the past. But now the information on the exam objectives, pretty spot on. Okay, my oldest video on YouTube, May 28th, 2007. From 13 years ago. Thank you, Jay Harks, in the chat room. Yeah, was it an in-map video? I bet it was. I'm wondering, we'll have to look in the after show to see what that happened to be. Because that was about the time I'd written my in-map book. I had done every in-map scan. I had packet captures in the book. I put videos out. Was it on BitLocker? No. Was it on? I think it was on in-map. I think that was a comment on this video, wasn't it? On this question, wasn't it? InMap. InMap's been around forever too, and what a great utility it is to have that. We'll have to see. Won't that be fun to watch later? I don't know. It won't. But we're going to watch it anyway. We're going to see what happens. Have we? Now the real question is, has it gone down? Nope, it's still there. I'm waiting for it to drop under 500,000. Because that inevitably happens, by the way. YouTube comes in from time to time and gets rid of bot accounts and other things. And you see the number, you're looking at the graph and it goes up, and then one day it drops like it's Bitcoin and just goes down. It's so dramatic in the dropping. You have to not rely on those numbers. You can't live and die on those numbers or it'll just chew you up at the end of the day. But it is nice to see those big round numbers as a human. Let's see how you did with this one. A Windows administrator would like to encrypt a single file on an NTFS volume. Which of the following would be the best choice for this task? Would it be BitLocker, Active Directory, SFC, EFS, or check disk? 56% of you say EFS. 37% of you say BitLocker. We have 6% that say SFC, 1% say check disk, and nobody said Active Directory. I have a feeling we're doing our job talking about Active Directory earlier and what it does. So what would it be if working through this? Well, if you just need to have a single file, you just want to encrypt a single file, and indeed it does need to be on an NTFS volume to be able to do this, then you need to run EFS. EFS is the encrypting file system. It's a feature of NTFS. This doesn't work on FAT32. If you got a FAT32 partition does it work on exFAT? It doesn't work on exFAT. exFAT's specifically written to have low overhead. This would certainly be overhead for this. So that's one of those situations for EFS. Very nice to have that functionality. It is available in a number of different editions of Windows, but some of it is not. For example, for Windows 10, it's available in Windows 10 Pro, Enterprise, and Education. In fact, some folks even mentioning in the chat room before I even said it, which was, I can't use this because I have Windows 10 Home. So true. Can you bypass it? There might be a way to bypass it. A number of these features in the versions have these behind the scenes, unsupported yet capable features that you can turn on and turn off for that capability. The real key with this, though, and I mentioned this earlier, is the encryption key for this file is effectively your username and password. So that's why it's important. If someone goes in behind the scenes and administratively resets your account, using the sort of the backend process, and not using the normal Active Directory or the normal Windows built-in functions, but using a sort of a hard-coded, we've got to break into the system kind of function, it will cause your EFS file to remain encrypted, and you would have to go through a number of steps to be able to get that back. So just keep in mind that a backup is always a good thing to have, just so that you're aware. And those capabilities, that's one you want to go through for EFS. And it would not be BitLocker. I know that 55% of you said EFS is definitely what you would use. BitLocker, 37%. BitLocker is great, but it's a full disk encryption program. FDE, full disk encryption. You'll see that written. It is an all or nothing kind of scenario. Take everything on a partition, it's encrypted. You can't pick a specific file with BitLocker and just decide to only encrypt that specific file. That's not what it's designed to do. You would have to use some other utility like EFS to be able to do that. It would not be SFC. We talked about System File Checker earlier that checks the integrity of your system files. Checking integrity has nothing to do with encrypting a single file, so that's not what that would be. Check Disk, a great utility to use to check your file system integrity and to check the actual physical media of your storage drive. You can use Check Disk to do that, but Check Disk does not do any encryption of single files or encryption at all, for that matter. And then Active Directory, 1% of you chose Active Directory. And as we mentioned earlier with Active Directory, that's not what Active Directory does. Active Directory is a central management facility, and then what you decide to use for encryption would be something different from there. So our answer here, by far, no question, EFS, 55% of you got that one absolutely right. So in celebration of the 500,000 subscribers, I told you I wasn't going to do anything extra, but we are. We're going to do one more question. That's the best I got. That's the only thing I had prepared is another question. So let's do another question before we're done here. I know we're at the top of the hour. We're in overtime. We're celebrating 500,000. And this is a Windows 10 question, so why wouldn't we do it? During startup, a Windows 10 computer enters safe mode instead of the normal desktop. Which of the following would be the best way to correct this issue? Would we run startup repair, rebuild the BCD, reseat all adapter cards, start in VGA mode, or restart the DHCP server? During startup, a Windows 10 computer enters safe mode instead of the normal desktop. Which of the following would be the best way to correct this issue? Would we run startup repair, rebuild the BCD, reseat all adapter cards, start in VGA mode, or restart the DHCP server? Think you know the answer? Go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA. Lock in your answer. So there you go. Is there ever a use case if you already have Pro to use EFS over BitLocker? Well, maybe you only need to encrypt a single file. Maybe you don't want to have BitLocker running for whatever reason. You know, there is a little bit of overhead associated with BitLocker, but it's negligible. So normally that's not the issue. But BitLocker is encrypting everything on your drive. And if it's your home computer, maybe you would prefer not running into a situation where there would be a problem with that. So because what you have on your home computer is probably not necessarily super critical, important intellectual property, proprietary, secret government company stuff. It's probably an MP3 file of your favorite artist, or it's a picture you took at a piano recital. You know, those types of things don't necessarily need to be encrypted, but you might have some tax forms. And on your system, maybe you want to have your tax forms in an encrypted drive, just in case something happens to this computer, the hard drive gets handed over to someone else, or you sell the computer and you forget. Well, it's okay. You've already encrypted all that data. They can see the pictures of your piano recital, but they're not going to see the pictures of or the images or PDF files of your of your tax information. So there are some good use cases to choose EFS over BitLocker, certainly. And that's I think that's a pretty good use case. If you have a machine, if you have a laptop, you take the laptop out of your house all the time, you go to the coffee shop, you take it to the library, use BitLocker. Just have everything on that drive encrypted. That if something was to happen to that laptop, somebody steals it, you forget it. There have been many times where I've been in the airport going through security and somebody's left their computer. Happens all the time. So this could happen to you too. But if you know that you've encrypted everything on the computer, then you've only just lost the value of the computer. I would probably argue the data that's on your computer is more expensive than the computer itself. So knowing that it is encrypted and nobody can get their hands on it, it can put you at ease. Knowing that nobody's going to be able to see anything on there. Now, let's go buy another computer we can restore from our cloud-based backup, which you were smart enough to do, right? Of course you were. So that's what would work there. Let's have a look at this answer. During startup, a Windows 10 computer enters safe mode instead of a normal desktop. Which of the following would be the best way to correct this issue? Would it be run startup repair, rebuild the BCD, reseat all adapter cards, start in VGA mode, or restart the DHCP server? 82% of you say that before you do any of these other things, you would run startup repair. I think startup repair is a pretty good choice. If startup isn't working, weird things are happening, you're getting odd messages on the screen, it says the operating system is missing, or it just goes into safe mode, you would probably want to run startup repair. It will automatically go through steps of checking, is everything properly in place to be able to start this operating system? And it does it without you having to touch anything. It's literally this screen. All you can do is watch the little Cylon bar go back and forth on the screen until it's done. It doesn't really tell you much of what it's doing. There's a one-liner, searching for problems. What do you mean? What are you searching for? What is going on? What is it doing? We don't know, but it's doing something. And occasionally, in fact, more often than not, it seems, if you run into these kinds of issues, and often these kinds of issues are caused by a third party or by some piece of malicious software, it will get your system back up and running. So useful to have this functionality. Just go to Startup Repair. This is also a feature available from your repair or your media, your startup media, or from the startup screen, the repair screen at the very beginning. So you don't even have to boot into the operating system to be able to run Startup Repair, which makes kind of sense, doesn't it? So Startup Repair is the right answer. Really didn't fool anybody with this question. 82% of you got that one absolutely right. 10% of you said rebuild the BCD. This is the boot configuration data. This is the little section of Windows when it's starting up where it's gone through the BIOS, it's checked to be sure there's a storage drive, and then the BIOS has sort of turned it over to the kernel of the operating system and said, all right, go boot up your operating system now. And the kernel says, great, let me check the boot configuration data to see where the operating system is, because the kernel doesn't know. Like, okay, we'll start up the OS. Where is it? Is it on drive C? Is it on drive D? Which physical drive is it on, and what folder is it in? And it looks in the BCD to find that. And once it finds that, it goes to that folder that's on that drive, and it starts up your Windows operating system. If the BCD is corrupted, if it's deleted, if something happened to it, if you moved Windows, it's not going to find it, and Windows won't start. Not only will it not start, you won't even get safe mode. So in our particular question, we at least got safe mode. And because we got safe mode, the BCD is okay. It's at least pointing to the right place. So that's not our biggest concern right now. We also have, starting in VGA mode, well, we were able to see what's on the screen. We were able to see the safe mode that came up and use it. So starting in VGA mode doesn't do much other than scrunch the screen down into a very small view. If we had a problem with a device, a video driver, if we had a problem with the video configuration and you start up Windows and you can't see anything, it's just garbage on the screen, it's artifacts, it's a bunch of corrupted data on the screen, maybe we start in VGA mode so that we're removing the video driver from the mix. And we have reseating all adapter cards. We didn't really run into an adapter card problem here or any messages that pointed us in the way of an adapter card. And restarting the DHCP server would help if we were not able to get a proper IP address, but a DHCP server being unavailable would not cause Windows to go into safe mode. Safe mode means Windows isn't really working very well. That's what that's all about. With safe mode, there's many reasons that safe mode would operate, but safe mode would use all of the normal video connections that you normally have. Safe mode does not by default start in VGA mode. It will use some drivers that are there and the capabilities available to it. That is your best answer, running startup repair. That'll help you so many times. You'd be surprised how often running startup repair actually works. And I say this going back probably to the Vista days. Is that where startup repair really started? I think it was. Really wasn't that great. It was okay, but it didn't do a lot of things. I guess we could say that in general about Vista. But in this particular case, with Windows 10, that's what you should use. It really works quite well. And to have that there. Safe mode does not always default to VGA now. You'll know when you get in VGA mode because you can't read anything. The screen is this big. It's just tiny. Like, oh, I have enough room to bring up an icon. Safe mode at least would give you a larger resolution. So that kind of helps too. All of the questions that we went through today talked specifically about topics that came from the Core 2 exam. If you don't have the Core 2 objectives, you are doing yourself a disservice. This is really the very best thing you should start with. You should refer to this all the way through your studies. It should be the last thing you use as a set of checklists. This has everything you need to know about the exam. We were talking about this on the CompTIA Discord the other day, that if it's not in the objectives, do not bother learning it. Spend your time instead learning what is specifically written in these objectives. Now, of course, if you've already learned everything that's in the objectives and you would like to go a little bit outside the scope, I guess that's up to you. But primarily, the goal primarily for people taking this exam is to pass the exam. Once you pass the exam, absolutely, you're going to be going outside the scope of this quite a bit in your career. Don't worry about going outside the scope. I really like to learn everything. Well, that's great, but most of us just want to pass this exam. So stick to the exam objectives. You can find those at professormesser.com/objectives. There's a link to the CompTIA website there, or go to the Google machine and type in CompTIA exam objectives. It'll take you right there. You'll know exactly where it is. We went through an hour of Q&A, but we do this all the time. You can, of course, go to the Professor Messer website at professormesser.com/calendar, and you'll be able to see when the next live event is going to be. For example, next week we have a Network Plus study group. The week after that, we do Security Plus. And then next month in June, on June 8th and 9th, we have our A Plus study groups coming up. Also June 16th, Network Plus. Also June 23rd, Security Plus. I need to put this on my site. I don't have this on my calendar yet, but I will put these on my calendar once we're done here. We'll figure out the details behind this. If you liked what you saw here, you're really going to like my course notes, because there are well over 100 videos for my entire A Plus series, both Core 1 and Core 2, and it covers so many different topics that I think making people go through every single video might be a bit much. So I've made some course notes where everything that's in my videos is in these notes. All the graphics, all the charts, all the text, all the details, I put in there. So if it's in my video, I put it in my course notes. And it might be a great way to, once you've gone through the videos, once you've read through your book, once you've done the hands-on, have something you can just quickly glance through to learn the topics you need to learn for your exam. Every exam objective is in my course notes. You can find that at professormesser.com/1000 notes, and it's a great way to support the site as well for those of you that feel like what we're doing here has been useful, and you're thinking, I need some extra tools, I need some extra study materials. This will be a great one for you to have. My course notes, professormesser.com/1000 notes, 1000 notes. Well, we've gone through an hour of Q&A, but we're not done yet. Stick around for the after show. I'll open up the phone lines. We'll take questions from the chat room. We'll go back and see what I looked like 13 years ago, which would be even scarier. We're going to find out. It's in a different studio, different lighting, different cameras. Everything's different. Was it different lighting? It might not have been. I think it was the same mic, though. Find out more about my course notes and practice exams on the Professor Messer website, professormesser.com/1001success. Don't forget about when you're ready for your vouchers. There's already discounted vouchers available on the Professor Messer website, professormesser.com/vouchers. And then, of course, you should follow us at professormesser.com/Twitter, professormesser.com/Instagram, and professormesser.com/YouTube. Look at the numbers go up. You guys are awesome. Just awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the time that you spend with us every month. Thank you for the 500,000 subscribers. It's not sunk in yet. I really can't believe it. And thank you for being here in the study group. We'll see you next time on the Core 2 A+ study group. Thanks, everyone. Well, let's see if I can get things running here. I don't think, what a good question. What is my YouTube revenue? It's not enough. It's simply not enough there. You're going to have to go out to, what is the web? Social Blade. You can go out to Social Blade and they'll tell you what it is. I don't know if that's accurate or not, quite honestly. It keeps changing. YouTube's done a lot with YouTube revenue and all kinds of things during this last year. So while we're waiting, I'm going to get the phone lines up and running. If you would bear with me just a moment. This will take me a moment. And then we're going to poke around YouTube and see if I can find the first video on my channel, which should be frightening for all of us. So bear with me for just a moment while I start up my Skype on this side. There it is. She's starting up now. And I need to, and I, of course, chose Skype that is on my Windows desktop. So watch as Windows 10 loads on my Mac OS, everyone. This was not the Skype I wanted to use. So this will take another couple moments. Oh, it says I have monthly revenue on YouTube from $400, but it could be $6,000 a month. Well, there's a range. I would say it's probably in that range. That sounds accurate to me. That's probably not shut down right now for the Windows. Probably not the most accurate representation of maybe Social Blade was the wrong idea. Well, they don't know what to do. They just know how many views I get. Then they determine based on those views, you could be getting a different amount of revenue per view because that's the way YouTube works. Certain types of content is worth a different amount of money. So children's programming, the advertising on that is worth different than legal programming, which is worth different than IT certification programming. So it's all based on what people are willing to buy. So that's using InMap and a live CD distribution, which I would say is probably still pretty accurate. All right, I finally found my Skype that is running in a proper, I say proper, it's my native Mac operating system. So bear with me a moment. We're going to type in a few things here and see if I can properly log into my own website.
Enter your 6-digit PIN.
Thank you. I think I will. I don't use the 6-digit PIN anywhere else, so hopefully I got it right.
Welcome, Professor Messer.
Thanks, nice lady. That means I am logged in properly. We can shut down my virtualization system. We can, I can now move over into my lower third and change the lower third so that you can see where you can call in if you would like to. That's not the lower third. There it is. Wow. We're having a tough time of it, apparently. There it is. You can, of course, if you are in the continental U.S., it's a toll-free number at 855-785-RJ45. If you're west of the Rockies, 855-785-7545. You can also call in from outside of the continental U.S. The way you would do that is go to professormesser.com/ no, you can do it directly from Skype. Go to your Skype because it's free in Skype. You can call a toll-free number in Skype. What was I thinking? Of course you would do that. Go to professormesser.com. No, you get Skype from Microsoft and then go to +1 at the beginning, +1 855-785-7545. Just type in the number that's on the screen. You'll see it. It's right there. Let's see the date of my very first video using InMap and a live distribution. that. Let's see
Now, there
how
are
this.
other ways to
Let me get it
use
off the screen.
in map.
Hold on.
And one of the more popular ways
What happened with
that
this
doesn't
audio?
require you installing anything extra.
You don't
on
even
your
see
system,
me.
In most cases, doesn't require anything other than putting a CD.
There's no.
or a
You don't
DVD
see me in this
into
whole
the drive.
video.
The system
What was
includes
I thinking? We're gonna jump
I also
ahead.
have the fully blown
Hey,
VMware
look at
virtual
those.
machine
Look at
console.
that
I
graphic.
don't want to do that. I want to run
And
the player so you get a feel for
you don't
exactly
even
what
get
this
an
looks like
option.
when
This
you're
is like
running it.
360p.
And you can see exactly the night would even notice there's
What
a lot
happened?
of extra things
Who
here.
put this
That's
video
because
online?
one
What
of
was
the
I
things did on the
thinking?
command line
This is
was
just awful.
the
Who
host
who
of
did this? I have a feeling this looked a lot better when I think I brought this over because prior to moving onto YouTube, I was on blip.tv. That was our very first distribution, and I had about 1 million views on blip.tv. And then I moved blip.tv sort of it did not keep up. It didn't do HD, and Vimeo did do HD at the time, 1080p. And we moved to Vimeo at 1080p, and then Vimeo, their big thing in Vimeo is that there's no advertising, except I'm making these YouTube videos for free, and I needed some advertising, so I moved over to YouTube, which was brand new. It wasn't brand new right then, but YouTube did not have HD when I was on blip.tv, and they had just added HD. I thought, okay, let's do that. So this must be the case. There's no way I uploaded that with that blockiness. Somebody on the chat room was mentioning Code Wow says YouTube's compression of older videos degraded those. That had to be the case. There's no way I put this on YouTube. There's no possible way I put this out for anybody. I was very proud of how clear my videos were because I used some screen capture software. I spent a lot of time on compressing, spent a lot of time on the audio. The audio is horrible.
You may want to do that on yours. You may not. And this is the default screen.
And you can hear the compression in there. So how sad that that particular video was not as fantastic. How about we see one with me in it? So the next one was a year later. I didn't publish anything on YouTube. I posted that on May 28, 2007, and put nothing else there until March of 2008. So that gives you an idea when we really started moving things over was 2008, and it was my 600 series A+ training course. There it is with music.
Welcome to Professor Messer's free A+ certification training course.
Sounds so
this
good.
This is the very first
Still,
module
the
of our training
video
course.
not
So
great,
if you're
is it?
thinking about going through the course,
Now, I'm
this
not
is a
looking
very
at
good
this
place
on
to start.
YouTube. So hold
Gonna
on,
give you-
hold on a second. So I'm looking at this in my YouTube
overview.
channel management, and I'm wondering if that might have something to do with it. So let's view it on YouTube and see if it at
Google
least
Career
looks a little better.
Certificates
Well, let's
provide
first watch an
online-
advertisement from Google. And then we'll go to the phone calls. I apologize for those of you. It doesn't look much better there, does it? And what are my options? My quality,
Welcome to
240p.
Professor
There's no way I
Messer's
published this
A+
at 240p.
certification training course.
Let's jump
This is
ahead, shall we?
Talking about network security, that the entire so that you could.
That's just
and
gripping.
It's something that isn't just done by myself. It's with
Yeah,
your
I got
input into
headphones.
this as well. So
There's,
that really makes this
there's
a little
no
bit different
beard.
in the way that we're doing it. I'm not just
But
putting
still,
one or
the
two
same
videos
content.
out on the internet.
It's the
for
same
free.
idea.
This entire
Nothing has really changed with the underlying formula that we came up with, which was put me in the corner, let's give away stuff for free, and let's see what happens. And there it is. So there you go. Thank goodness. 500. There's no way it looked this bad when I uploaded it originally. I think you're right. I think they got rid of some of this old stuff that nobody was watching and did this. But there you go. That was a blast from the past. He hasn't aged a bit. Look how young he looks. We're just going with that, people. That's the way it goes. It doesn't matter how that turned out. It doesn't matter how that looks now. It doesn't matter the headphones that were there, but the microphone, by the way, as I mentioned, same mic, everybody. That's not only the same mic, literally the same microphone, same physical microphone we're still doing. So when it works, why would you change it? That's what I say. So that's the case here as well. So thank you, by the way, for that. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the years of help that you've given. You've completely changed my life. You've completely changed the life of my family. Completely changed what I do for a living. And we just love it. Every day, it's always something fun. Always get to talk to people who are getting a job, getting a better job. IT provided me with skills and money that I could not have ever gotten anywhere else. The sky's the limit. And if you're somebody who wants to do anything in IT, this is where you can go with this. It's a great place to be. Let's now go to the phone lines. I can probably make sure I've got the right things going here. And let's start with a longtime caller. Jeffrey is calling. Let's see if we can get the phone lines up. And oh, you know what? The host, I've got him on the line. Hold on. Let me put you on the queue. I know you heard a beep. The only thing I didn't do was call into my own show. I was so busy doing that. I got Skype up and running, and then what happened? Did Skype go away? Skype went away. I must have hit a button when Skype went away. Did the world stop there? Oh, and I pushed the wrong Skype again. My Skype disappeared. Let's try calling back in. I know I'm not imagining things. I did call in, didn't I, to my own show?
Thank you.
Pretty sure. So we're going to try this again. I remember the nice lady, right?
Enter your 6-digit PIN.
Okay. We're going to do it again, and then we'll bring Jeffrey back up. I apologize, Jeffrey.
Welcome, Professor Messer.
Thank you, nice lady. So with that, now that we're done, now let's go back to Jeffrey's line. Are you there, Jeffrey?
Oh, yeah.
There he is. I am so sorry. Thank you for holding, though.
Hey, no worries. First of all, congrats on 500,000. That's
Thank
huge.
you. It is huge. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm gearing up for my Core 2 exam, and I just had a few questions, or two questions that came up as I was doing a final review of the videos this week. One thing is in the Windows command prompt, it allows for both / and \. I was wondering if there's a kind of general rule on how to translate those, when to know which one is to be used based on the situation.
Here's the weird thing is if you go into Windows and you'll notice it has the slashes and spaces you put in there. / is often used to delineate a parameter that you would associate. So ipconfig/all is there. And while we're talking about this, I'm going to, now that I've just shut down my Windows, we're going to bring my Windows back up again. And I'm going to see if I can step through these with you. Generally speaking, if you are not describing a directory in Windows, you're not describing a file system reference. So /program files / Netscape Navigator. Try to use the old terms. If you're talking about a file system and you're talking about a file location, it's backslashes. Otherwise, you would use a /. Now, what's interesting in Windows, if I can ever get my Windows up here and running so I can demonstrate this, but I also have to remember my authentication, which has its own challenges associated with it. The / is an interesting thing. And let's see if I can do this and figure this out. So I'm going to show you something you can't see on the screen, but I'm going to show everybody else. And you can, of course, go back and have a look at this. So if you've ever run a program in Windows, like ipconfig /all, and so /all. It's one that we need to know for our Core 2 exam. ipconfig is a very common one, and it shows you everything that's there. The / is what Windows calls a delimiter. It's a way that Windows can show where something stops and where something starts. So the / here tells Windows everything after this delimiter is a command that we will use, a parameter to this command. But as it turns out, as a little bit of trivia, you do not need to know this for your exam, almost anything can be a delimiter. Try ipconfig /all. You're going to get weird different things happening. Now it's going to tell you, no, that's not right. You're going to do different things. There are other parameters, / is one I wanted to choose. No, that didn't work with ipconfig. So maybe they have updated some of these utilities. Let's try the net No, we don't use a slash in the net. We do in the net view. We do a ping, the ping command we could do. We do a ping -t. This used to work. Nope. So I'm already speaking wrong of the delimiters in Windows. I'm going to have to look and see which ones still support that. But generally, if it's not a file system reference, it's a /. If it is a file system reference, it's the \. And that's almost universal with all of these. And now it looks like it really is universal. It used to be you could get away with making different changes to the delimiter and the spaces that are in there. But now you can't. So that's where you would focus your efforts. If you're ever referencing a file system, use backslashes. If you're ever referencing a standard configuration, use a /. What's interesting, though, also in many of these commands, is it doesn't matter. On some of these, like net view or net use, some of them will allow you to do either one of those, because I guess they know that some people might type it in wrong. So they programmed it that way. So you've got to, not in every place, obviously, do you have the ability to tweak it and kind of cheat the system, because we just demonstrated that what used to be there doesn't work the same way anymore. But in other commands where you can swap between forward and \, yeah, you're definitely have the ability to do that. On the command, on the exam, you're obviously not in a Windows operating system. You may be in something that looks very similar to Windows. So it may or it may not allow that /. It may give you an error. And then at least that would give you the feedback to know that, oh, I should use the other / to be able to do that. So worst case, you can figure it out.
Sure. Well, that's actually good to know, at least that the \ is going to be like an actual file location.
Yep.
Like I'm saying this is where I need it to pull from. And the other one, I was just curious, you in one of your videos that has to do with using traceroute and time to live, I wasn't sure if this was just to show the mechanics of how time to live works or if there's an actual benefit of doing it. When and why would you actually set a time to live rather than just running the trace route, letting it hit the end and come back and seeing the time to live at kind of each hop?
Yeah, the time to live in TCP/IP is a very useful parameter in the header of IP, because we don't have a way to tell when loops happen on an IP network. It's not like something like spanning tree. We've got spanning tree on our switch networks that can help us prevent loops. We have nothing like that in IP networks. And you may be wondering, well, when have you ever had a loop in an IP network? Well, most of the time you don't. But I have put in many firewalls, many routers into systems where we have configured a static route on router A that if you need to get to the rest of the network, you go to router B. And then we configured router B and we told router B, if you ever need to get to the rest of the network, go to router A. So the moment we sent information into router A, it went to router B, then it went to router A, then it went to router B, then it went to router. It never went anywhere but between those two systems, effectively creating a loop on the network. And by the way, when you're implementing new systems, that kind of thing happens all the time. And you'll notice suddenly you're getting all these errors on your screen showing time to live exceeded. You're trying to ping the other side and it says time to live exceeded. Why is my time to live exceeded? The time to live in Windows is usually 64 or 128 hops. Like, how could I have pinged the network that's on the other side of that router and suddenly I went through 64 routes and it timed out? How is that possible? Well, because I built my routing tables wrong. That's why it did that. So that gives me, as the administrator, the heads up to say, oh, I did this way wrong. Now, what if you're doing a trace route, though, and you really do care about the first 5 hops, but on your particular network to go from point A to point B, there's really 20 hops. And I've done demonstrations on these videos where I've got 13 or 14 hops, so that's not beyond the realm of possibility. But maybe you don't care about those. You're short on time. You don't need to do trace routes to those. You know that everything after the 5th hop is going to block it anyway, so why would you even bother with that? So you can administratively tell applications like traceroute, only do a TTL of 5. Once you hit 5, stop doing the trace route, because we know after that point, we don't need to know any of that other data. That's clearly a corner case. I don't know if I've ever used that feature in my life, but that is the case where you would use that if that was actually a need.
Gotcha. So pretty seldom thing. I wasn't expecting to see it come up on the exam or anything like that, but it was something that just kind of piqued my curiosity in that one video. And yeah,
Yep.
Thank you so much for the answer as always.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I appreciate the call as always.
Sounds great. Hey, talk to you later, Professor.
Thank you so much. The thing on the exam is that they will never ask you to go through every single setting for ping, every single parameter for traceroute, every single parameter for IP config. They do expect you're going to know kind of the most important or the most used ones. And I hope I'd covered those in my video. That's the goal in my videos and on my course notes, is to show you what the most used and most common ones are. You should always know ipconfig/all. You should always know ipconfig/release. You should always have one for renew. You should always know those commonly used ones. Sounded like I didn't know what I was doing there for just a second. Know those very common parameters. And that's what might be asked on the exam, but they're not going to ask you to know, oh, you need to run a trace route with a minimum TTL of 5. What parameter would you use? I'd get it wrong. I don't know. I don't remember. I've never used that parameter, and you never do on the exam. So you probably won't be asked about that on the exam either. We were talking earlier about forward slash and backslash. So I very quickly wanted to make sure that everybody knew what I was talking about. Here's my keyboard. This is where you configure the Logitech keyboard. You can change all of the parameters. You can change what, for instance, there's a print screen button just above the backspace button. And I got to tell you, not a great idea, folks who are in Logitech, for the next version of this, putting a print screen key. Because when you hit print screen on a Mac, it saves everything on the screen into a file. And if you have multiple windows, like I do, multiple displays, it captures both displays and saves them automatically every time I accidentally hitting the backspace key. And so you'll notice that my print screen button actually doesn't do anything. So at least they gave me the software to do this. I bring this up because there's 2 slashes. The slash down here next to the question mark is the what we call the forward slash. That is the one that goes from the bottom to top. It goes from left to right. It goes just underneath the question mark, just to the left of the right shift key if you're here in the United States. The backslash key we were talking about earlier is the one that goes in the other direction. From left to right, it goes from high to low. And it is the one most commonly over the enter key on a US keyboard. So that's the difference between the forward slash and the backslash. And as I mentioned, in many cases, they can be used alternatively with each other. They can be used the same way with each other of them. So just so you're aware to work through all of those. In the chat room or the phone calls, we're going to come back to phone calls in just a moment. There was a code we used for CEU. It's in the first hour of the event. So you can always go back and find out. It's got to be in there somewhere, right? For those. Would I get a perfect score on the A+ Network Plus or Security Plus? I don't take the exams anymore so that I'm not bound by the candidate agreement. But when the last one I took, I did not get a perfect score. I think I got 1 or 2 wrong. I did pretty good, but I didn't get a perfect score. So that's just how it goes, people. Can't get them all right, but you don't have to. You just have to get the minimum number, and then you're certified. So I am no more certified than somebody who got a 700 on their Core 2. So that's the key. Get the certification. That's your goal, and you'll be good. Really important. And another good point from John Grissom in the chat room. Just because you do not have your certs, do not let that stop you from applying for IT jobs. And that's probably one of the best things you can tell somebody, because if you read through some of these job postings, they want you to have knowledge of quantum computing. You need to have 37 years of experience in space travel. You need to understand the chemical makeup of the Mars, of dirt on Mars. You need to know everything there is to know about everything, it seems, in these job postings. And if you look at the job posting, you may think, but wait, I don't know all that stuff about Active Directory. I don't know all that stuff about Word that they're talking about. I don't know all the things about Windows that they're saying in there. I'm not going to send my resume in. Well, if you don't send your resume, you're not going to get the job. We know that. That's given. But you should not be the one to decide that you're not qualified for the job. Now, you should certainly read through that. And if you think looking at that, well, I can do that job. And the few things that I don't know, I can learn that. I got skills that can make this happen. If that's the case, you should send your application in. Always, 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 always. Let them be the ones to decide, not quite the best fit for us. And that's okay. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. We'll just keep it moving. But you'll never get the job if you're the one that decides that. And you don't know what situation they're in. You don't know if suddenly a huge project has suddenly appeared. They need 20 new people on a help desk. They're building out a new facility. They need warm bodies and they don't have enough people sending in resumes. Your resume suddenly looks really, really, really good. But you would have never known that had you not sent that in. That's the key. So never discount yourself. Always, always send your resume in if you believe that you're qualified. Now, if you don't have the A+ certification, you've never worked in IT, and they're looking for a senior systems engineer for security, okay, that's a case where you probably can discount yourself. But the other ones, slide it in there. Go ahead. Help desk, yes, absolutely. Make that happen. Let's go to the phone line, 661 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller. Did you hear that beeping noise? That was you. Caller. It makes that loud, annoying beep when you come on the line. Hi, caller. Hey there. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Andrew. I'm calling from Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm happy that I passed my A+ certification.
Nice. I'm so congratulations on that. This is through both the Core 1 and Core 2 then?
Yes, Core 2 is the last one I passed, and I also use other sources. Not only yours on video, but also other sources. The other sources I use is Jason Dion's courses on udemy.com, especially his exams, which is extremely helpful. That helped me to pass my exam.
Now, when you got through the certification pieces of it, you went through Core 1 and Core 2. Did you take Core 1 first and then study for Core 2? Did you study for both at the same time? What was the time frames you used for both of these? My
process is I took Core 1 separately for months, and I separately because there's too much information for me, so I decided to separately.
Good. This is probably, I saw someone, we were talking in the chat room in the pre-show, that someone was planning to take their Core 1, and a week later they were taking their Core 2, which you can do, of course. You can take them in any order and as much as you would like. But one of the challenges with that, of course, is you have to know all that content all at one time. I personally couldn't imagine me doing both of those at the same time unless you already had some industry experience and a lot of these things were already something that you knew. I guess that would make sense too. But congratulations on this. Obviously, things are still kind of shut down quite a bit in Canada. So is this a case where you took the both of them online?
Actually, Core 1, I went to the deployment only, but Core 2, I had to do online because it's completely shut down in Alberta. Now we have a lockdown.
So this is, and as I mentioned on other study groups before, Mrs. Professor Messer's family in Canada. So we kind of have people in Vancouver, in Edmonton, in Hamilton. We kind of get the coverage of what's going on in Canada, and they keep us up and running. So we're kind of thinking about you guys that are locked down and the things you're going through. So now you had the choice of kind of taking both of these, one in a testing center and one online. So you're a perfect person to ask. For those of you that are holding, please bear with me because I'm really interested in this. So obviously taking it at home is similar but different than taking it in a testing center.
There are a lot of rules for a home take. You have to clear out all the stuff out of the desk, and you can't have anyone coming in, knocking the door, or making noises. And you have to stare at the webcam the whole thing, and you can't turn around. And if you break any of those rules, it's automatic fail.
This is probably a challenge that many people have run into when taking this exam at home. Is they are very particular and very strict.
And another problem is I ran into, like when I did the first part of the performance test, like where I had to do commands and stuff, but it didn't go through. Some sort of errors, and then I wasn't sure about it because I got an error or something. No, I got it right because I knew the answer,
Right.
but it's just I wasn't sure. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Some sort of bug problem on the online test or something like that.
Oh,
I have no idea. I just skipped it.
You were not the first one who has called into one of our study groups that has said exactly that thing, that the performance-based questions at the beginning are nicely put. They were a little squirrely. They were a little not so great in how they were implemented, unfortunately. But it sounds like you got through it and you passed, which is the great part, and congratulations. What's your next step?
My next is I'm going to study my Network Plus, and I've already bought the virtual lab. I'm going to use the course called no, it's an online course, online program. It's better than going to colleges. It is called itvpro.tv. It's where I'm going to learn the Network Plus.
I think
and
that's
do virtual labs on it.
That is a great next step. I've always said in these study groups, and that's probably my networking background kind of breaking into this, is that if you want to do anything in IT, having knowledge in the network is incredibly important. So I think that's a great next step for what you're going for. Congratulations.
Yeah, and my next step, but this time I don't want to study alone on it, and I will. And I've already joined Jason Dion's study group, and this time I'm going to ask if any users want to join the study group with me because I'm done studying alone. I want to study with others because I want to make the learning more fun. It's just like it's just got boring and also a tedious one. That's just my own opinion. I want to do hands-on.
There's a nice group of folks on the CompTIA subreddit has a Discord, and there's people in there every night studying. You can just open up a channel. People will join in. You can share your screen. That's another thing to consider as well.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that, so I'll probably consider joining a Discord.
It's a good bunch of folks over there. Well, congratulations. Stay safe up in Alberta, and best of luck with your Network Plus.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate the call. That's always good to hear. I was mentioning on that Discord this morning, somebody was mentioning that they had passed. They were letting me know in the Discord that they had passed. And somebody said, do you get tired of people telling you that they've passed? Like, never. I never get tired of somebody telling me that they passed. It is infinitely motivating. It's what really keeps this whole thing going, is that piece of it. Did you pass? Yes, I did. I'm now going to get a job. Or I love hearing from people, they passed, they went and got the job, then they got network certified, then they like 5 years later, they send me a note saying, I started here, started from the bottom, and now I'm here. I should write a song about that. That'd be really good. I love getting those messages too, because it is one of these. This is a weird industry. There's no exact way to get from A to B. You decide how to do that yourself, but then there's no ceiling to do that. So that's really, I think, fantastic. And thank you for calling and letting us know about that, because that's always I get to walk around with the rest of the day with that. It's really great. So back to the phone lines, the 978 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Jonathan. I'm from Massachusetts.
Hello, Jonathan from Massachusetts. What can we do for you, sir?
Hey, so I just have a quick question. Then I'll hang up because I'm at work. But this is a question for people like me who are seeking a career change. So how big is the leap from like learning the material and having the knowledge and actually putting it into practice in a work environment? And what's a good way to prepare for putting what we know into practice?
This is probably the thing that is, I don't know if it's misunderstood by most people that are doing this, or if they try to position it in a way that maybe doesn't make a lot of sense, because you always hear people say, I took this certification. Other people say, well, just because you're certified doesn't mean you know how to do it. Well, no, that's not what a certification is supposed to tell you. Certification tells you that you have hit the beginnings of something big, that you have a base foundation on which to build on. And quite honestly, if you've taken the A+ or Network Plus or CCNA or any of the Microsoft certifications, or really any certification I've taken in this industry, when you're done with the cert, you absolutely knew more than you knew when you started. There's just no question. If you passed that certification and earned it, you've learned some stuff. You've already gone through the process. So it is not a net zero scenario. But in our industry, in IT, there is no way that you will ever know everything you need to know. You will always be in a meeting. It's very rarely did I ever go to a meeting and know everything that was ever asked of me. And this is even going back to the last job I had was as a senior systems engineer representing a next generation firewall. I was the person talking to our customer in the room, and the customer needed information from me. And they would ask questions. Question one, like, oh, I know the answer. Here's question one. Question two, we talk about question two. I go, I know the answer to that one. Question two. Question three, they'd ask a question. I'd say, I don't know. Now, that's a good one. I have no idea. But I know somebody in Denver that did that. I talked to him the other day. So let me go back to my guys and say what they did with that. There's always these weird configurations. Well, did you use it? Well, I need a multi-factor authentication, but instead of using a number that's changing, like with my RSA key, I'd like to use these cards. And they have cards for multi-factor authentication. They have like an X and a Y, and they give you the X and the Y, and then you have to figure out where they meet, and there's the number, and then you have to type that in. That's their multi-factor authentication. Those things exist. And I'd never used one. And they said, do you support that? Like, if it does radius, I support it, but let me find somebody who's actually doing it. And I'll tell you what their experiences were. So I got to say, I don't know. I don't know should be your number one response, really. If you really don't know, tell somebody you don't know, but then you also tell them, and I'm going to go figure it out for you, because you're never going to know everything. If you try to fake it till you make it, that only goes so far. And boy, they can tell when you're faking it. And by the way, if you don't know it, you just don't know it. There's nothing wrong with not knowing anything in IT, because you will never know everything in IT. It's impossible for one human being to know everything there is to know. So when you're trying to work on this transition of, I've got my certification, I'm trying to get the job, how do we get from that level? How do we get from one level to the other, to the other, to the other? How do we keep making that step up in our career to make these things happen? And it's almost always you're collecting information and you're being a sponge with everything that's around you. I would often ask people to, I don't know, give me the manual. I'll read it. Give me an hour. I'll be back. That was before there was the internet. Now on the internet, give me the manual and let me hit a website. I will figure out what's going on. Let me read through the PDF. Let me call somebody. Let me figure out the experiences they've had. And it's good to have that network of people available so that you can bring it all back together and move up. If you're in, for instance, a help desk position, you should be learning everything there is to know about that help desk position, but then starting to go outside the scope of that. Once you learn how to change a password in Active Directory, you know it. All right. Well, how do I maintain the Active Directory infrastructure? Well, I'm on the help desk. I'm not in charge of that. Well, who is in charge of that? The server team, or maybe in your environment, the Active Directory team. There may be a group of people that only deals with Active Directory. They're not even in charge of maintaining the systems it runs on. They're in charge of Active Directory. So you go and talk to them. Hey, I was doing this at the help desk. I had a question come up about Active Directory. How do you do that? And they'll tell you. If there's one thing that we always do in this industry that through the years has been a constant, is we always like to bring people in. Let me show you how. Let me show you how this works. And very often, if you show an interest in that technology to the people who are using that technology, they might even get the idea that we should, spend another 6 months in the help desk. But as soon as you're done and you earn your Network Plus, come back and see us, because we might have a position for you. Those types of things happen all the time. That's how I moved up in the industry, is I was working on the help desk. Then we did a project with Windows where we needed to push Windows out to everybody's machines. I don't know how to do that, but I want to learn. Can I be involved? I'll just stand over your shoulder. I'll point at things and say, you spelled that wrong. That's what I'll do. Not helpful at all. Annoying, really. But I'll be there and I'll watch and I'll be the sponge and I'll figure it out. And eventually I can start doing more. And then suddenly I ended up being responsible for the rest of that project and rolling it out. And that moved me into server management. And that moved me into network management. And that moved me into working as a systems engineer for the network general. So went from one thing to another, to another, to another. And it's just one of those things that happens almost without you're not expecting it. And then it does happen. It's really a kind of a fun way to go through your career sometimes, because sometimes things happen when you were least expecting them, but there's always an opportunity. So take advantage of those opportunities. They are out there. You just need to make sure you can find them and be ready for them when they happen. That's one of the problems is the opportunities just don't fall in your lap. You've been working and working and working and working, and then suddenly there's an opportunity there. It's not that the opportunity suddenly appeared. It's that you met it. It was there when you were ready for it. And that's the difference, is you got to prepare, or you're never going to have an opportunity show up. And you're wondering, where's my opportunity? Did you prepare for it? Because it's probably went by and you weren't there yet. So you got to be there so that when it comes by, you're ready to take advantage of it. Back to phone lines. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Messer. How you doing?
Hey.
I'm Rory from England.
Hey, Rory. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, basically, I'm in need of a little bit of advice. I'm a bit in a time constraint right now.
Right.
I have my 10:01 on the 14th. Pretty confident for that, but then I have my 10:02 on the 21st. Just wondered if you think it was possible for me to pass 10:02 in those 10 days if I revise for like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Were you the one mentioning the short term between the exams in the chat room in the pre-show?
Not in the pre-show,
Okay.
no.
Well, so
yeah.
you're not the only one in this position then. So you can at least take a little solace in that piece of it. It is a challenge. Is there a particular reason why you're doing them back to back like that?
So yeah, my work wants me to complete it by the end of May.
Okay.
So
Makes
want
perfect
me
sense.
because, yeah.
Makes perfect sense. So, and that's usually how I see it going down. It's usually somebody who's already had some time in the industry and they need to get the cert so that they can say they have it. Or like you, there is a driver behind getting this done by a certain time frame.
Yeah.
Well, you've got, you mentioned doing one on the 14th and the other on the 21st, a week later. Is that right?
The one on the 24th, so 10 days after.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's at least a little bit better. Well, there's two things that might be working for you here. One is that the total amount of content you need for the Core 1, I think, is a little bit more than the total amount of content you need for Core 2. So there's, in many ways, there's fewer pieces of information you need to know for the Core 2. So that might be helping you from that perspective. Is it possible? It's absolutely possible. There are people that do this all the time. And you had mentioned having a dedicated number of hours per day that you could spend doing this. 10 days is not a lot, but when the average for these two exams is usually about 2 to 3 months, let's say the average is at 2 months. You need to finish this exam and get it done, and it takes most people 2 months. They're probably doing, an hour a night. But what if you were able to do 4 hours a day? Then you're kind of collapsing that times 4. Well, 10 days worth times 4 is 40 days. That's like a month, almost a month and a half, a month and a week anyway. So you may be able to squeeze everything you need in there. And depending on your previous experience and the knowledge you already have, it might even be easier than that. So is it possible? Absolutely possible. And given that you've got 10 days, you've got a dedicated time to study every day on each one of these things, and you can kind of catch as catch can in between those study sessions with flashcards or reading through things or just hitting your phone and reading up, you can absolutely make this happen. One of the advantages you have is that if you don't catch it right the first time for some reason and it doesn't work out, you can immediately retest. You can reschedule without a delay and do it the next day if you have to. If you miss the second one, then you got to wait a week. I think it's 7 days. Or did they change it to 14? Maybe they changed it to 14 days. But there's a time that you can't take another test. So you have to keep that in mind if there's a tight deadline that you might want to leave yourself a little bit of room. It's 2 weeks, so 14 days. So you have a little bit of time between one testing session and maybe a retake. But don't mess up that second one, because then there's a delay and we don't want you to miss your time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. I'm a systems engineer at the moment, so it's looking like 1002 is a bit more up my street with
Gotcha.
the categories in it. So I feel like I'm a bit more confident in that. But yeah, thank you for everything. I've been buying your notes and your practice exams, and
thank you.
they've been helping me revise a lot. So yeah, I do appreciate it.
That's great. And best of luck. I think it's a tight time frame. It's absolutely doable. Get the A+, get that next job, and keep it moving.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the call. That's always good to know. You know, that's not the best possible situation to be in. I always tell people, study for the first exam, learn everything you need to know for the first exam, be comfortable with everything in the first exam objectives, take the exam, pass it, then shift gears to the 1002. There's very little overlap in the first and the second exam. There's not a lot that's similar between those two. They are really designed to be very different exams. So because of that, you may be able to really forget everything that was on the first one as you study for the second one. In fact, I often do that. You'll keep something in there. Something will stick in your brain, but you don't have to remember everything from the first one if you're planning to take the second one. So another idea behind your study sessions you might want to think about. Back to the phone calls. Let's go to the 416. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello, caller. I hear you there. I know you're there. Did you hear the beep? If you're on the line, say your name and where you're from. So close. Are you Toronto? Are you there? Are you on the phone? I hear me, certainly. They had to walk out of the room. We suddenly had a delivery, which is what's happening if they're in Toronto right now because they can't go out of the house. So we're going to stick you back in the queue and take some questions from the phone line to be able to make that happen. That's sort of the challenge right now for our Canadian friends, is they're kind of in that lockdown series. We're keeping track of our family on the FaceTimes and sending the text messages and seeing what they're doing up there. But it's not a great situation they have to deal with up there. So doing your exam online has really helped quite a bit over this past year for sure. No question. Does Core 2 cover professional workplace etiquette? That's a good question. So let's look at our exam objectives. Everything you need to know is in the objectives. And in Core 2, since you're bringing it up and this gives me a chance to go through the objectives, I'm going to do that. Make sure you always download the latest objectives from the CompTIA website, and they'll tell you what's going on. In Core 2, there's a section on operational procedures and things you need to know. This is the sort of the last area of the exam objectives. I'll bring this up so we can have a look. And there it is. And you can see that there is a section 4.7 given a scenario, use proper communication techniques and professionalism. So there's a whole section on how to talk to people, how to talk nicely. That's really what that section is. But being able to communicate in our industry, and it's probably this way regardless of the industry. I don't know why I say our industry, but being able to communicate, generally speaking, in any industry is valuable. Knowing what to say, how to say it well, how to present, how to not hold your hands and fidget when you're presenting, things that you wouldn't think about. How to hold your arms next to you when a picture is being made, that type of thing. Those are very useful skills. Being able to communicate not only in a form where you're speaking with people, but in a written form is so valuable in our industry. And this is a section of the exam objectives that really does focus, that professionalism really does focus on that piece of it. I mean, whenever we're talking with people that are having technical problems, they're sometimes really, really frustrated and really angry, and not angry at you. You didn't do it, but they're angry at the situation. They themselves have tight deadlines. Whenever I have problems, I mentioned earlier about my website being unavailable last week. It's a high-stress situation. I rely on my website as my communication medium to you. I rely on my website for revenue. My business runs on my website. So when that goes down, I'm kind of nervous. But I call my IT folks because my cloud services that I use, my IT team is at my cloud services provider. So I call them. And in fact, as I was calling them, when has this ever happened? My site's down. I just woke up. Went down at like 4:30 in the morning. I just woke up. I'm rolling into my studio. I'm sitting here in this chair. I pick up the phone. I call into my provider, my cloud provider, and they pick up and say, "Hi, this is your cloud provider. Give me your authentication information." As we're doing that, the tech on their side's calling my cell phone. I said, "Well, you're already calling me. Let me hang up with you. I'm going to go talk to them." And then he said, "Oh, yeah, and thanks. I got my A+ because I watched your stuff." And then he flipped me over. I flipped over the other line and talked to the tech that was there. And they were calling me saying, "Hey, I just saw this ticket came up. Your site's not acting real nice. What's going on?" And it kind of made things so much better. The tension level went down. Like, okay, let's step through this and figure out what's going on. I am not functional because I haven't had coffee yet, but let's see what we got. And we figured it out. It was a mistake I did. It was my problem, my fault. It's my fault. Sorry, my bad. I'll take it. I broke my site. And he fixed it. Fixed my site. We stepped through it. I did a few things. We did some tests. I did use Telnet. I checked for open ports. It was a firewall problem. And we figured it out. And we reconfigured. And we were back up and running. No harm, no foul. Those are the types of things where it could have been a bad situation. I'm sure he felt some type of nervousness on my side, some anxiety on my side, even though it was early for me. I wanted to get this back up and running quickly. And of course, you're worried at that point. Is there an outage? Did we get hacked? Did somebody delete all the files? Do we need to restore from a backup? I have multiple and extensive backups, as you can imagine. Do we need to switch over to one of those? Is this going to take some time? How long is this going to take? You're going through all that in your head, and it's like, oh no, we just need to change an IP address. That's it. We just need to change that firewall config, and we're good. Fortunately, very, very minor. So that section of the exam objectives, one little section with a few things that seem to be minor, but in reality, those are really valuable skills to have in our industry. And if you can put yourself in the shoes of the person who's being frustrated and talk to them and say, yeah, that does sound bad. Don't know what it is yet, but I will find out. We will get this up and running. We'll figure out what this is. And we have options. If I can't figure it out on this one, we've got other machines we can bring in. We've got other things we could do. Don't worry about it. We got your back. You know, that's what the person on the other end of the phone or the person who's standing in front of you needs to know, is that you got it. No problem. They're not technologists. They don't know about all this stuff. You do. So you're going to have to be, and sometimes it was the way that a CEO once described it to us. Maybe he wasn't the best CEO, but it stuck with me, is that sometimes you have to be not a technologist, but more of a psychologist. They just want to vent a little bit, and let them vent. What you're there. In fact, you understand their frustration. Tell me about it. Hit me with everything you got. You do learn after a while to kind of create a bark of skin. You're like a druid. So you can suddenly, at any point, you can click a button and the skin just becomes very tough. I'm on the internet. I got a website on the internet with, thank you very much, 500,000 YouTube subscribers. I get some pretty insulting emails sometimes. Not a lot, but you get them. But I forget about them immediately. You just sort of learn that they don't stick anymore. I used to have to walk around with that stuff for days. Like, that person said he didn't like me. How am I I don't like this. Somebody didn't. Well, a lot of people don't like me. You just kind of get used to it, I guess. And then you figure out how to interact with people in a different way. And the ones that need your help are sometimes the ones that are the most angry. But if you're the one who fixes it, suddenly you're the good guy. So sometimes it all works out for you. You just have to learn how to manage that process. Back to the, let's go back to Canada. Are you there, caller? We put you on hold. Are you there, caller?
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for calling. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi. I'm Huda from Saga.
Thank you for calling. What can we do for you?
Yeah. Actually, I have a confusing question about what the easiest operating system between Mac OS or Windows or Chromebook. Because actually, I got this question in my Core 2 exam, and I confused it.
Well, we obviously can't talk very specifically about actual exam questions, but we can kind of say, talk about the advantages and disadvantages of all those things. There are certainly, if we want to look at those three specific operating systems you mentioned, Windows, Mac OS, and Chrome OS, effectively. That's what runs in a Chromebook. And if you were talking about which is easier, that's, of course, a relative term. But certainly the simpler of these operating systems, the operating systems that are designed to be the ones that are the easiest to have running on a system, certainly the smallest overhead would be Chrome OS. I mean, it's designed to work and it does require a network type connection to really be valuable. You have to be connected to the internet for Chrome OS to really have any value to it whatsoever. Because it's not designed to be a standalone operating system. It's designed to be streamlined. It's designed to be in the cloud. It is a cloud-based OS effectively, functionally anyway, is that it really takes advantage of the cloud. If you were to talk about which is easiest in the terms of user interface, well, then we can all have an argument about it because that's what we love to do in this industry. And the Mac OS people will say that theirs is easier to use. The Windows people will say that theirs is easier to use. The Linux people will say that everybody else doesn't know what they're talking about. And then the Chrome OS people are over here working and they're just ignoring all of us. There's that's sort of the context. But is there a particular aspect of what is easier or what is simpler that maybe you wanted to focus on?
Oh.
Yeah, without having any more knowledge of the question.
Because I confused, because when I read, I saw it's Mac OS is the easiest operating system. But I think Chromebook.
I'm going with you. I think Chromebook's pretty darn easy. And I would say of those three options, I'm going with Chromebook. I think that's probably your best option as well. If that's all the information we have and the only delimiter we have is which is easiest, well, we're handing Chromebooks out to middle school students and they are just killing it. They are doing amazing things with that operating system that I'm not so sure they'd be able to do with Windows or Mac OS as easy. So if I had to pick one, that's the one I would choose too.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate the call. Thank you for calling. That's it's all relative, of course. I would say, because I don't get enough emails now, Mac OS clearly the most elegant in operating systems. That's the difference. If you want an operating system to be like a work of art, it would be Mac OS. If you need an operating system that was like a bulldozer, it was like a piece of construction machinery, then you would have Windows. Just gets it done. It's not the prettiest thing, but it's just a powerhouse. And then Chrome OS is when you need something in the cloud, you got Chrome OS. You got a Chromebook that you could do that with. Chromebook's relatively inexpensive too. Some huge advantages with that. And then Linux doesn't work. So we're not even going to talk about Linux. I'm sorry, I'm trolling too much today. Linux is the foundation of my business, which is why I can talk sort of flippantly like that. If you're on ProfessorMesser.com right now, you're doing a lot of Linux. You're doing Linux on the load balancer, on the web servers, on the database server. It's probably Linux on the reverse proxy that you hit before you even do any of that. Extensive work and really a sleek, fast operating system as well. You buy operating systems and you use operating systems depending on the job at hand. It used to be we picked operating systems based on, does it play a particular game, which I still a valid criteria. However, there's also situations where you might want to pick the right operating system depending on the need. For example, I don't have this up and running, but I have my streaming server. Can I show you my streaming server on here? I sure can. So here's my streaming server. Well, there we go. This is the problem with showing streaming servers, of course, is we're incepting a little bit. Is that my streaming server runs in Windows. You can't really tell there. It just goes by too quick for you to see that that's running in Windows, but it's really running in Windows. That streaming server I had running in Mac OS to begin with and didn't work so great. There were a number of problems. It was primarily associated with the application I was using. It wasn't an operating system problem, but it was an OS type scenario where I think the problems they had were associated with the drivers they had created to work with that operating system. And so as much as I wanted to use Mac OS to be able to do that streaming, the drivers just weren't working for me. Threw out Mac OS, threw on Windows 10, loaded the drivers, never looked back. So I have in front of me at my desk Mac OS. I have Windows is how you can see the stream right now. Linux is how you're able to visit the website. I picked the right OS for the right reason. None of them are better or worse than the other. They are just different in what they are providing to me. And this same scenario could probably be done with other operating systems in other ways. You can mix these and match them, certainly. There's tons of Windows-based web servers and database servers out there. There's tons of Mac OS streaming servers. There's tons of Windows workstations. That's just one of those things that you got to find the right way to do that and work through those. In the chat room, folks are talking about calculators on the exam. No calculators on the exam. No link for calculator. There's no way to plug in a calculator. And I would expect you would rarely be in a situation these days where you're actually doing the calculation of the converting between the PC3 or PC4 speeds back to the other throughput speeds. You probably don't necessarily need to know that these days. But there is certainly, it could probably be done by hand, and I think you'd be fine. You're probably not going to get a question asking you to do that, though. It's more along the lines of understanding what those things are that's really the most important part. Some of that's kind of a leftover. It used to be they asked us extensive questions on the speeds of memory, and there were questions about 12 different CPU sockets on a motherboard and the number of pins in a DDR chip. You don't get those anymore, fortunately. So don't worry about it. You don't have a calculator and you probably don't need it for your A+. Not your biggest problem. Also in the chat room, do I think Apple certs, like the ACSP, are worth it to get a job and be effective as a system admin? Well, they might be if you go to work for Apple, and they might be if you work for a place that is heavily relying on Apple hardware and software. That may be helpful. It's like anything else, though. The value of a certification is based on what you do with it. Is it for your own personal knowledge? There's certainly value there. There may not be any dollars or jobs associated with it, but it's nice to know things. Most of the time when people go to certification, they're doing it because someone wants them to have it, including either an existing employer or a prospective employer. So if you've gone out and looked at all of the jobs in your area, help desk positions, network administrator, system administrator, workstation administrator, whatever fits your job requirements, wherever fits your experience, go look at those jobs. What are they asking for? Do the jobs in your area want certain Microsoft certifications? Do they want CompTIA certifications? Do they want Apple certifications? Do they want any certifications? I don't know. That's the real question. Sometimes an employer doesn't care. So that is the answer. Every time somebody says, should I get this cert? My question always is, what are you going to do with it? Is somebody asking you for it? Are there jobs in your area that would like you to have it? Are you doing it just so you know more about the technology in general? So there's advantages and disadvantages both ways. So I think that's a good thing to consider. Also in the chat room, is there a way to buy the practice exams without the notes? Absolutely. You can buy them all individually or not. If you buy them together, there's a price break because you're buying more stuff. So you get a little bit of a discount. But it's not an enormous discount. It's not like it's that big of a deal. But if you already know that you're going to get both, it's nice to get the lower price. But you can buy them as individual books, absolutely. On the website, there should be on the list. Why am I talking about it? I could just show you. So let's talk about Core 2. I'll go to the ProfessorMesser.com website. We will look at all the chats that are coming up on my screen, which I'm just going to have to minimize again so you could see them. So let's look at Core 2, and let's look at the course notes, and let's do a Google ad, everybody, because we need that. That's important. But on the page where you would purchase these, our product information page, it's one page you go to. So you don't have to go to multiple pages or bounce around or figure out what all those things are. So you could just get the Core 2 course notes, or you could get just the Core 2 practice exams. So you could pick and choose from those, or you get them together and you get a little bit of a discount. That's where the discount is. Or you go and get the success bundle. It's got all that in there anyway, plus exam hacks and video downloads and audio MP3s and study group audio and Q&A and all those other things. That's in there too. So you've got some choices, whatever you'd like to choose from. Oh, and some of you asked about this too. This is the digital edition. So this is provided as a PDF. If you want the physical edition, it's this button right underneath that says looking for a physical edition. Click here. And it takes you to another page where the physical ones are. I'm going to stick a tab in here, I think, where I could just tab between them. A lot of people are asking about that. And that's just bad UI. That's just bad staff work. And by bad staff work, I mean what I did. There's nobody doing my webpage. There's no staff working on my website. You're looking at them. You're looking at the website administrator, and he did a bad job. So he did not make that clear. It seemed like a good idea at the time. I was definitely not prepared for the popularity of the physical editions. So I need to put a tab in there that on that same page, you can flip between. Whenever you do something like that, there's always extensive concerns with things on the website and how Google sees it and all of that. So it's just one of those things that I have to get through. For the last couple of months, I've been working on Security Plus. So we just finished our Security Plus course. For you folks who are doing Security Plus, the entire 601 course is available for you to watch. 177 videos, 21 and a half hours of content. But you've got a choice. So at least you got that choice. And I know, no, it's kind of hard. You get to a certain point, like, I don't see it. I don't see it. You just have to scroll. Just keep scrolling. Scroll. It's down there. I do need to make it easier for people to see or put a tab at the top. I think a tab would be great. For those of you, we'll do a quick UI thing. I think a tab right up here, a tab that said digital edition, and another tab that said physical edition. And you just tab between them, and it would change the pricing chart, I think is what I need to do. Because right now you click that button, and it's got to bring up a completely separate page that looks identical to this page in many ways. In fact, it is identical in almost every way, but it's a different price chart. Well, that's just, like I said, that's just bad staff work. That website technician is fired. Not really. I should probably hire one, though. That would be better, right? If somebody was actually focused on these types of things and could do it better than I did, which would be probably anyone. That's one of those things, though. When you're a small business owner, you have that balancing act between, do I hire somebody for that? Do we do it ourselves? The goal, of course, should be you should be hiring people for these things. You should be outsourcing everything that you do. And we do outsource quite a bit, but we don't outsource everything. Sometimes it's just easier for me to log in, make the change myself, and we're off to the races. So that's it's always a challenge to stay up to date. And right now, there's another big website project going on right now that you'll never see the results of. It's just making the website more optimally configured, making it faster, making it sleeker, less overhead, because Google checks for those things. They put you higher in their rankings. So I'm not only doing these courses, but I also have to be knowledgeable in website design. I have to be knowledgeable in the infrastructure configuration. There are load balanced web servers here. And along with that, I have to be an SEO expert. So on top of all of this, and I'm not good at any of those because I'm doing all of those. I'm good enough to know what to do and how to do it. But there's a constant knowledge. I mentioned if somebody asks you, you don't know, you say, I don't know. So when somebody said, what do you need to optimize in your site? I don't know. There's some things I know I need to optimize, but even I don't need to know. I don't know everything that needs to be done because I don't know enough about what needs to be done. This is the problem with technology, isn't it? And being able to work through that. And SEO is a moving target. There are things you should be doing, things you shouldn't be doing, things you should be planning for. And you have to keep that up. How can I sleep? Well, someday I'm hoping to do that. Sleep sounds great. I don't sleep very much. I am in here most of the day, certainly when the sun's up. So, and often when it is not. So I usually start here between 7 and 8 in the morning, and I leave about 10 at night currently, because there's just a lot of projects going on. But it's very cyclical in my world. So once I kind of get courses out, I can kind of take a break or change the times up so I can only need to work during normal working hours. It just depends. Well, when I have a course that needs to go out, you guys would like me to be working on that, and I would like to be working on it for you. So I just push to get it done. We just got to work through it. Question in the chat room. Anybody here have experience in the Microsoft Cert world? I have some experience. I have Microsoft certifications and have taken a number of their certification courses in the past. They've jumbled up everything recently. Microsoft has made extensive changes to their certification pathways in the last 2 years. You really have to spend a lot of time. Huge emphasis in Azure. Huge emphasis away from desktop operating systems. So a little bit of a challenge there to be able to do that. Plus, a lot of what people are doing now is in the cloud. It makes sense that they would be focusing on how can I run Outlook, Exchange 365 in the cloud? How can I use Active Directory in the cloud? How can I have these cloud-based services running optimally in an Azure environment? It just makes sense you would know that. That's where, and one of the big reasons right now, I've mentioned in previous study groups, my son will be graduating in the next few months from a school with a cloud computing degree, because that's what's happening right now. And once you understand the cloud, you've got a lot of flexibility. You got a lot of options. So Microsoft's path, when I first saw it, I thought, what about all the people running Windows? What are you doing? And then it turns out, no, the more I thought about that makes perfect sense, that you would need that knowledge. It's time to get people thinking that way, because that's when it's going to be. When will the SY0-601 Security Plus full course be available? It's available, brother. Go get it. It's there. I have no more videos to shoot. It is already online. Every video, 177 videos, 21 and a half hours. Can you tell I've been busting in on that lately? I've been doing nothing but Security Plus lately. So I'm so happy that's done. Can you tell? Can you tell I'm so happy Security Plus is done? It was the biggest course we've ever done in the history of us doing courses. The biggest course we've ever done. That's remarkable. It is the biggest Security Plus course, obviously, that has ever been published. The largest number of exam objectives than any other CompTIA course that I've ever seen. How many hours of work, if we're doing Inside Baseball now, we're sort of in the after show at this point. How many hours of work went into 1 hour of video? Well, let's think about this. So most of the work on a video, most of my videos are around 7 to 10 minutes long, intentionally. I focus on a series of topics and we're done. But let's say it's a 10-minute video, just so we got even numbers. 10-minute video, it takes me for that 10-minute video, it probably took me, I want to say an hour to create the content for that single video. So for 177 videos, I guess we could extrapolate that out to 177 hours. That's probably not far off. That's probably pretty close, quite honestly. Some of them takes longer than others, especially if it's newer content. It's topics I did not have a previous video for, or I'm redoing a video. Sometimes I have a video I did and I think, That could be better. And then I update things that are in the existing video. So sometimes more than an hour, but an hour is probably pretty good. So that's just to create the content. The bulk of me creating these courses is always in the content creation. That's the hardest part. The part where I sit down and shoot the video is really the easiest part. It's just very time consuming. But I've already done the hard work. At that point, I've already built out every video. In fact, I've already created the course notes and published them. So you get your hands on the course notes technically before there's a course. The course is behind the scenes. You don't get to see it yet, but I've already created the book and I put it out there so that you have access to it. Then I start shooting the videos. A single 10-minute video usually takes me about 30 minutes to shoot. Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, but I would say that's a good average. So because a single time that I'm shooting one slide, I'll shoot that slide 3 or 4 or 5 times, sometimes more. Sometimes less, but not really. So a single 10-minute video, we'll say 30 minutes just to be pretty good. So already we got an hour and 30 minutes in this 10-minute video. And then it takes me about 30 minutes to edit if I'm really fast with it. If it's a 10-minute video, 30 to 45 minutes to edit. And it's not hard there. It's very streamlined. I got the process down. So that's another 30 minutes. So you've got 2 hours of time to create a single 10-minute video. There you go. So for an hour of video, you've got 10 hours of time. really quite a bit of time. So no, maybe 3 hours of 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, you could have 10 hours of time just for an hour of video. That's probably pretty accurate. That's just how it is. These are time to do it right, to do it the way we want to do it takes a lot of time. So it's one of those situations where could we get away with doing less? Yeah. Could I get away with making it faster? Yeah. If I didn't have to be facing you, if there wasn't, picture me on the screen that you saw, I could do it a lot faster because I can sit in here at night just talking to the mic. You never see me. But I think there's something about seeing me on the screen that it connects better. At least it does for me. I guess you could hide that on the screen if you wanted to. And people have sent me messages and said, can we turn you off? That would be great. We could do. No, you can't. I was on the screen. But more importantly, the content itself, it's important to me that it be very focused on the exam objectives and it be accurate. And often that takes so much additional time. The accuracy is so important to me, and the quality of what I'm telling you is important to me to tell you in a particular way that when you hear it, that it's correct. That's probably the most important thing for us. My goal is to have the highest quality materials that I could possibly create. And we don't ever want to have something that's just good enough. I mean, I could put out a set of practice questions that was just questions and answers, done. But I just think there's more that people need when they're studying. There's more than I need when I'm studying. That's the context I usually put it in. Let's go back to the phone calls. Real quick, 347 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name's Shaquille. I'm actually calling from New Jersey.
Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Yes, I know you're not an advisor, really, but I just want a quick advice on something.
Sure.
So I'm actually in school right now. I'm going to NJIT. I'm studying mechanical engineering, but IT has always been something. I've always been handy with computers, installing systems and stuff like that. And I'm having second thoughts now. I'm thinking about changing my major, but I'm halfway there. So I'm thinking if I should change into IT or I should just go for the certificate.
Well, there are advantages and disadvantages to both of those types of credentials. And I go through this a little bit in there's a video that's on my YouTube channel, which is how to get a job in IT with no experience. And usually Lori will put that link into the exam, into the YouTube video description, and it might even be in there now. I might just keep it in there. So you might want to look there to see if it's there, or just go to YouTube and type how to get a job in IT with no experience, Professor Messer, and it will find that video for you. And I talk about the value of a formal education And I compare that to the value of certifications. And so that you don't have to go through the video, I'll give you just kind of the quick overview. It's a 30-minute video that is chock full of content, which is why I highly recommend you watch it anyway. But I tell people those are two credentials that you bring to an employer that have a different value. A certification doesn't replace a formal education, and a formal education doesn't replace a certification. They are two different kinds of credentials that provide the employer with different types of information for them. If you're going to go through the process of getting an IT certification and you happen to be in an IT related formal education system right now, that is a win-win. That is fantastic. People who are watching this and listening would love to be in this situation. The fact that you even have that option available is fantastic. The real problem you're going to have if you decide not to have the formal education is that other people who show up with their certs for these jobs will have a formal education. And if the employer has to make a decision on which person to go with, well, they've got the formal education to lean on, even if that formal education is not IT related, because there's something about having that 2 or 4 year degree that tells an employer not only did you stick with it over a long period of time, but you are trainable, for lack of a better word. You're somebody who can learn a lot of different things over a short period of time and come out of it with a formal education that you can work from. So that, I think, is an incredibly important part of this. Somebody in the chat room is even making another mention. I think it's worth mentioning that what if you don't have one of these things? I say in that video, you need 4 things. You need a formal education, you need certifications, you need industry experience, and you need to know somebody who already works there, the people networking side of things. If you don't have one of those, then you're going to have to greatly increase the amount you have of the other 3. So if you plan on not going into that training program anymore, you plan on not going into that formal education program that you have, you got to immediately already have a plan for the other 3. And even then, it may not even necessarily replace the requirement of having that formal education. So if I had to heavily recommend or advise in this particular area, the formal education, although it doesn't seem like it has the value you think it may have at this point, it has a value immediately when you get out of this particular role and you're in the job hunt, but it actually could even help you 10 years down the road, because eventually you're going to move up in the organization. You don't know where this thing is going to go, and you might be presented with a job that is a managerial position in the organization. And managerial jobs, they tend to like someone who has a formal education. Even if it's a formal education in economics, you've got a 2 or 4 year degree that you can lean on. And they tend to like people going into management with those formal educations. So that may be, it may be that you're doing this and getting it and not understanding exactly how that's really going to help you right at this very moment. But you may find years down the line, it actually helps you quite a bit. Now, on the other side of this, just because I have this personal experience of working very closely with, I worked with a salesperson as their systems engineer. He did not have a college degree. He had a high school degree, did not get a college degree. I think he took a little bit of college, but then decided not to do that anymore. He got out, got a job, and moved up the ranks. And as we were working together, he was making a lot more money than I was doing that job that he had. It clearly did not require that he have a formal college degree to do that. But he did find times when maybe he would like to look into going into management, and he found that that was a detriment. And there was also part of him that personally in his person, he really felt like maybe he was missing out on something because he didn't have a college degree. I was telling him, you didn't miss anything. You're making more money than I am. We're both doing very well. So you're making more money than most people do. So we're doing all right. But he said, but I really wish I had that college degree though. You know, even after all of that, having money or having that success in his job didn't even necessarily replace having that credential in his mind. And ultimately, that was what was the most important thing for him. So pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages. There's no better time to get that formal degree than right now in your life. So why not get it out of the way, Later on, you can figure out what value it was to you. But I think having it in your pocket is a lot better than not having it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hopefully that gives you something to think about, something to chew on, and maybe you'll figure out the way that works best for you, and ultimately that is the best way.
Yeah, because it's something I've really been thinking hard. It's kind of, I'm losing motivation with engineering now, and I'm just like leaning towards the IT side of things.
Is the formal education you're looking at an engineering degree, or is it something that is IT degree or computer science degree?
It's engineering tech.
Okay, so it is you're taking like calculus and physics and those kinds of classes. Yeah. My first major was as electrical engineering. I lasted a semester in electrical engineering and moved over to the business school and got a business management degree. So this may be the case. It doesn't always work out the way we think it's going to work out. And there was absolutely nothing wrong. I took a year of engineering. It wasn't just a semester. I took 2 full semesters of chemistry. I took calculus, and I did horribly. I was an awful, awful student. I did not do well. I think I was just in the wrong classes. When I shifted gears and went into business, I was great. I had found the right place for me. So maybe the formal degree is still in play. Maybe it should be a different one. And let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with moving around and finding the right place for you. If engineering doesn't work, there's plenty of other options, and you may be able to find something that is a little more IT related or computer science related that would allow you to maybe keep your credits, but at least move into something that might be more interesting for you.
Yeah. I think I'll just, I'm going to continue, and I'm going to work and get that certificate, the CompTIA certificate as well.
I think that's a good plan, and I think you can't go wrong either way.
Yeah.
Best of luck. I appreciate the call.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
That's one of those things where you do have to kind of struggle with this. And I did start off as electrical engineering, went to Florida State, took engineering classes, introduction engineering, wrote up papers at that time. I wrote up a paper I was very proud of on the O-rings on the space shuttle, which of course at that time, that was a big deal. And kind of just tried to get into engineering and couldn't get into it. It just wasn't I thought that was my pathway into computers. I thought electrical engineering would lead me into that because I already knew I had interest in computers. I didn't want to go computer science because that's just programming. I had no interest in programming, at least not as much as what ultimately I realized was IT is what I wanted to do. And I had to find the right balance. At the time, back when I went to college, we wrote with pen and paper. We didn't walk around with laptops. So that was the challenge I ran into, was that what major do I get? Because there wasn't an IT major. There was barely IT at the time. There's mainframes that we managed. The PC computing world, we had, 286 technology. It's about my college years. And we of course had computer labs at college. It wasn't quite as rudimentary as I described. We had computer labs, and they were networked, and we had X25 networks connecting to other schools over a 64K line. We had some connectivity there and some functionality and some graphical operating systems like Plato that we were using back in the day. But that's all we had. So how do you find a role in IT when IT doesn't exist yet? It doesn't exist yet. And ultimately I didn't. Ultimately I went with business. And I sort of took the business knowledge, the business degree, and showed up and said, I'd like an IT job, please. I have this business degree. They're like, oh, business degree, that's a good degree. All right, so you can be trained. Let's get you trained. And that's how it worked out. And that's why I tell people, you don't necessarily have to have a degree in IT, but it needs to be a degree that people can look at and go, that's a good degree. Nice job. I don't ever want to tell people not to do something. If you want to go get a music degree, go get a degree in music. I think that's great. But it's not going to make your job in IT any easier. It's not going to make the job hunt for an IT job any easier. That's just so far outside the scope. But if you had an economics degree, an engineering degree, I worked with a lot of people in my role as a systems engineer, other systems engineers who had engineering degrees. They had master's degrees. Some of them had doctorates. But we're all kind of doing IT at that point. Even they realized, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Did they use that knowledge of calculus in their role with IT? No, because calculus has no use anywhere, ever. I look forward to your calls and letters. I just had a bad time in calculus. Can you tell? That's the secret. So that video I have on how to get a job in IT with no experience, I step through each one of those, tell you why it's important, why it may not be as important, and ways that you could get more of it. How can I get more of a degree, of practical experience, of certification, of knowing people? And there are different ways you can do that. And I tried to put that in the video so that you can understand how I think would be the best way to do that. So maybe that will help for you too. Well, that brings us kind of near the end here. We've gone through a couple of hours of the after show. Can you believe it? There's a lot there. We have hit a major milestone, and you were here to see it today. I'm so glad that it worked out that way, that we could all be together and just talk about this craziness that is this experience. I look forward to another 500,000. Let's just keep it going, people. I'll keep making them until you're just sick of watching them. And maybe keep making them after that. Because what does it matter to me? At that point, maybe I've lost all scope. I've lost all perspective, and I'll just keep doing it, whether you like it or not. That happens on the internet. I hope you do keep liking them, though. We have great plans for the future. We have just finished our Security Plus course. Network Plus will be updated at the end of the year, right? That's coming up for an update. More networking. Who doesn't like more networking? Right after that will be more A+. At this time next year, we'll probably be working on more A+. So it's always an update. And then after that, there's even more things I have on my list. What will come next? We don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But I have a list of things I would love to do next. So there's always something going on. We're always happy to have you join us to see what is happening. Thank you for being here for this study group. We have another one of these next week. Come back on Wednesday of next week is our Network Plus study group. Haven't even written the questions yet. It's a mystery to all of us. I will try not to have any questions with 3 answers on them, just so you're aware. We'll try to avoid any of those 3 answer questions. That's not my goal, but we will have more questions certainly next week. And come back next month. We'll have some more Core 1 and Core 2 questions as well. There's always something going on. You can catch us on our website at professormesser.com, 24-hour chat there. I've got that Discord that I just haven't done anything with, but maybe I'll start turning that up. A lot of people asked about it today, which is at professormesser.com/Discord if I did it right. If I didn't do it right, tell me, and I'll go and fix all of that back up. And then we've got a lot of other things happening in the meantime. So stick around. We're always putting something on Twitter and Instagram. You never know when the next thing is going to happen because sometimes it sneaks up on you and you get something like that, which I'm just so proud of. Thanks for being with us, everyone. We will see you next time on the A+ Study Group.